Today's a really great day because Dr. Ed Wild said that there's an official cure for Huntington's disease, treatment happening. We knew it was already happening. We knew that they had cured it in primates and mice and that they were just waiting for the humans to to do it. And it's Dr. Ed Wild because he actually is somebody I've known a really long time and funded for a really long time because I was the head of the HDSA and still the head of the HDSA, which is the Huntington's Disease Society of America, for the last, fuck's sake, since I was like 15 or something, I've done that. The first thing we did was raised a shit ton of money in New York when I was a baby, when I was like 17 or something, honestly. I had just got to New York. We fucking wrote, I think I wrote Michael J. Fox a letter about the fact that Huntington's disease and Parkinson's are these sister diseases, and if we find a cure for one, we'll get the cure for the other one. And he actually came to the event that we did in New York, Huntington's Disease Foundation. There was so much love around it, around Woody Guthrie, around Bob Dylan. The reason that I knew this poem that Bob Dylan wrote for Woody Guthrie by heart, and I still know it by heart, it's a 25-page poem when Bob Dylan was at Woody Guthrie's funeral or whatever it was some kind of celebration of his life, but it was basically a funeral. He said, they asked him to write a tribute, and he wrote, my washing machine's on, sorry if you can hear that crazy sound. It sounds like very Star Trek-y sci-fi, and this is not that. This is very heartwarming. We're going for a Nancy Meyers vibe today. We're not going for sci-fi as a genre. I would love to do that, by the way, because I was raised in that world in space, in the world of the universe. But anyway, like, in this cassette tape that I had in Mary Hill, I was living in like a really dodgy part of Glasgow because it was dodgy then. I went to really private girls' school. I was very posh, and then I ended up in Mary Hill for the last like 2 years, poetically, of my life as a person and as a teenager. My older sister Nina kind of wasn't raised in Mary Hill, but I was, and then I had to walk to my fancy school from my really rough area. I had to walk through the roughest area to get to my fancy school, and everyone was like spitting on me. People of all ages were spitting on me on purpose because they hated posh people or the idea of something posh, or maybe they just didn't like whatever I was doing, whatever vibe I had, even though I was trying to be really low-key. But walking by yourself anyway as a woman is very intense when you become a teenager, and so yeah, it was not anybody's fault that they were upset with my outfit, because we fucking had these crazy uniforms that were this color. Almost the color of my t-shirt. Almost the color, but it was more like bottle green. So I'm making this video because they've officially healed HD, which I knew was happening because I got it from crystal healers. I knew that was happening a long time ago. I was told in like a crystal session where I was almost, it was almost like if you have a meditation and you get messages from your angels or your elders, that feeling, I was told in that context, in a kind of astral plane, that I was never going to have signs of HD, that I was here in an era to heal it with a community of people who were healing it, not anyone who was going to show signs of it, and not to be scared of it. And I wasn't the Jesus of it. It wasn't my thing. I'm not like the savior of HD, but that's what I say to people as well, because when we made Lion's Mouth Opens, which is based on the Woody Guthrie poem, I said I didn't want to be anybody's savior, because it's not really about me and my family, even though it's a film about me and my fucking family and about me. I was like, it's not about me, it's about the HD community. It's about people who have signs of it right now, people who don't have money to look after their family members, people who are working 2 jobs or 5 jobs and they still can't look after they're the carer and they still can't get enough support to look after somebody who has HD and also, or who's showing signs of it, or someone who's at risk and is scared, you know, and they don't know the details of it. So now those fears are assuaged, because my mom used to always talk about it in this way that wasn't fear-based. My mom was saying shit that I'm saying now, like in 1981. You know what I mean? She was all, my mom, Basha Palka, is the most strong, courageous, vibrant, life-loving, life-giving, maternal, sweet, Polish, gypsy blood, like magical artist, photographer, genius, poet, everybody's best pal, everyone's mum, everyone's like that. Your mum is like my mum, you know, like she's very this way, you know, like they all have so much to say. People stop me on the street and literally talk to me about how cool my mum is for like 25-30 minutes and then they let me go on my way. So this fact we knew. So I just want to say that all of the stuff that's happened, I feel like I can pull back into time. The reason why we cured this thing is because of friendships, people who loved each other as like lovers who were in the night and holding each other scared. My mom and dad were terrified of this thing and they just lived their lives anyway and had 2 daughters anyway. And they didn't let it scare the shit out of them. They kept going, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that you find with HD families. They're so brave. They're always on the battlefield. They've got all these battle scars. They've got all these awards and stuff. And the awards are just as interesting as the battle scars, because the battle scars really make you who you are with this disease. And when you have family members with it, there's such an emotional shorthand there where you just feel like we're all in this together. So what happened was I went to the States when I was 16 to do theatre. I was going to devote my life to the theatre, devote my life to plays. I need to show you my tattoos. Oh, tattoo's fading. My tattoo is fading. Oh my God, can you see my tattoo? It's like totally fading in this light. If it was more daylight, you could see it. If it was lit better, you could see it. Anyway, this idea that we can have this sense that what happened with the cure today is really something that came from all this hard work. It was a graft. It was a real shift, because we donated so much of the money that we raised from Lion's Mouth Opens to Dr. Ed Wild. Like, everything that we raised, when we raised so much money from the film, and we raised so much money from the HDSA, anytime Louise would ask me, the head of HDSA at that time, she said, yo, you know, do you want it to go into caring for people who have HD, this money, or do you want it to go into research for a cure? And because I had that vision from the crystal healing, that it was all about the healing for the future, I felt like we had to put money into the cure research. And Ed Wild was right there. I met him. He was an English dude, but I met him as a Glaswegian. I met him in Palm Springs. The CHDI is an event where people who are doctors, who are scientists working with Huntington's disease, come and they talk to each other. It's every year, and I showed the film there, and I talked to Ed Wild, and he was the only one who was like me, talking about positives. He was optimistic. He had a friend who was at risk, and that's why he started this whole bloody thing, is because he couldn't believe his friend was at risk of it. And so that buddy friendship is also the reason why I just gave him money. I was like, he's the guy, because he's doing it for his pal, so he'll never stop. Like, we all will never stop. All of us who love people who have HD just will never bloody stop, you know. Until now, maybe we can take a fucking break. Jesus Christ, we need a water. I'm like, hydrate me, because I am someone who did this for the last 30 years or 45 years or whatever the fucking shit is, because Yeah, my dad started showing signs of it when I was a kid. I was still a kid. I was really young. And there was no explanation for what it was. So we called it Dad being funny. And my mom would like walk into the house and he'd be hidden in a cupboard, and it would scare the shit out of her, you know what I mean? Because he was this vibrant, interesting, intellectual, like he was her support. He was her hype man. He was constantly talking to her about why he loved her, why she was the best thing in the whole world. And he said that to other people, and my mom was like that with him. They were very, very, very romantic, affectionate with each other constantly. And then when you have HD happen in your family, it changes the dynamics. Everybody is affected differently. And it's a little bit like Parkinson's, but it's not. It's you lose your motor skills, but your brain is affected differently. So it's like if you mixed Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, that's what HD is. Your brain is affected and your physical body is affected too. Sorry, I'm just like moving my jewelry around so loudly. So then what happened was, I think because that happened, it made me learn that poem, the Woody Guthrie poem. I remember seeing a cassette tape in Maryhill in my mum's house. And looking at the cassette tape, and it just said Bob Dylan on it. And I don't know if it was from, who the fuck was it from? I don't know if it was from one of my mum's pals. Maybe it was a cassette tape that Eva gave us, or Lainey or something. I don't know who wrote the Bob Dylan on that. I don't know where the fuck it came from, but I listened to the cassette tape, and there's this part where he's introducing it, and Bob Dylan says, they asked me to write something about Woody. And they asked me to write, like 5 pages, and I wrote 25. Oh no, he said they asked me to write something short about Woody, and I wrote 5 pages. And this is it. And he just like goes straight into it. When your head gets twisted and your mind goes numb. And I did it in an American accent. I did it in a Scottish accent. I used to do it on the subway in New York sometimes as like a busking vibe. That New Yorkers were not into. New Yorkers were into like other stuff that was different, that I did, like more plays and short films and stuff. But I didn't really do short films. I just did features. But and I did Happy TV show in New York, and I went to Atlantic Theatre in New York. And when you have a family member who has been mentally ill in any way, I believe you get Caliban syndrome, where you become the one who's the healthy one. Caliban syndrome, you can be a son or a daughter or a sister, a sibling or a cousin, whatever it is, you can be a daughter of the king, and the king is suddenly mad. But Caliban is the situation where we're the sibling with the family, and we're the surviving one. So what we do is we overachieve at a young age, which I already had done because I was already in New York doing theatre, and like my American dream had come true. I was on the stage, on this off-Broadway theatre stage in New York, thinking, I was doing a scene from Trainspotting or something, and I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to have your dream come true so young, and overachieving very early, being always on time and stuff like that, like being the one who's always the one who's there, being very present in life, up for everything, into commitment, loyal, to everyone, good, like very kind of overachieving, and a fear of contagion. Like you think your whole life you're going to get it, so you better run, because otherwise what is your life worth if you, or if it's going to catch you at some point, you may as well run from it early. That sense of like Shakespearean stakes, where you kind of are the Hamlet of your own life, but you would never feel suicidal. You'd never feel like you want to take your own life, because you understand that anyone can go crazy at any time. So why would you go crazy? You wouldn't be the one who goes crazy. So you have that fear of contagion though, because you know it's going to get you at some point. You just don't know when. And there's a couple of other things. Immature other people who are immature, like you don't necessarily want to hang out with them. You want to hang out with mature people. So you seek out like elders and stuff like that because you or feel that old because you've been through so much shit just from like the age of 12. So then that thing that drove me to write the letter to like Woody Guthrie's family sort of embraced my ethos because I was so engaged with the HD community at a young age in the States, and then was like on the board of the Huntington's Disease Society of America. Every year we kept raising more and more money every year. So like all my mates would come to this thing, and it wasn't like a party, but it wasn't like any other charity event because it was kind of like Save Mariana. Like it wasn't like I wish I could have had a wedding. Like I always wanted to have a wedding, and like I actually love marriage and love weddings. Like I'm fucking want to be a bride. That's all I want is to get married. But like I never got to do that. I just had like every year these fucking Huntington's disease events. Fucking in Scotland is a term of endearment. So anyone who's watching this internationally, just know that if I'm swearing because I'm from Glasgow, it just means I like you guys and we're familiar. It's a way of me to show that we're familiar. And grannies on the street swear in Glasgow all the time to say they like you, to show their affection. Anyway, to show they're warm-hearted. I was thinking about it from the point of view of that wee Mariana who was a child and had to deal with all these insane dynamics that, you know, no family would expect. And then the idea of having these events every year and raising this money, we kept making even more and more money and giving more and more directly to Ed Wild. There were other doctors that got some money too, but I remember being like, Ed Wild's the one who's going to cure this thing, because I could see the vision of that. Like, I'm sorry to be, if you're not religious, you might think that sounds ridiculous, but to people who are telepathic or whatever, clairvoyants are like, I get you. Like, the white witches out there are like, I know what you're saying. Well, how do I explain it in a cerebral way? It's hard for me to like be cerebral, but let me try. It's very natural that the stakes would be so high. And because the stakes are so high and it feels like, my God, you know, we were really trying to save our lives here, save our own life here. Having an event like that felt necessary, and it felt like there was kind of one road, and the road led to Ed Wild. Because also what happened was I was doing all of that before I even got tested for the gene, and then I was in Los Angeles living in LA, and I think I was talking to Bryce Howard about it. I don't know who I fucking was talking about it, but I know I was saying to like all of my mates about maybe getting tested and what it would be like. But I think what I didn't want to have happen was that I would feel alone either way. So I wanted to have like my mates around me. I wanted to sort of invert the thing where you go by yourself and then you just go home by yourself, which I think most people have done because it's so scary to get that news in a wee envelope. And your life before this, there was no cure for HD. They didn't even know the name of the gene for half the time. You know, they thought people who had it were just crazy. They didn't understand what it was. So many people like at Auschwitz and stuff were just killed who had HD because they just were like, these people go to gas chamber immediately. And there's lots of times in history where you can say they weren't really revered or respected or looked after, so their voices were just kind of shoved in this feeling of people being very scared of it, and people who have it in their family knowing what it is, so they kind of run away from it and pretend everything's fine for a really long time. That's also part of the issues around it, because I was told it was a lawyer I had at the time who told me that I wouldn't be insurable as a director, you know, for the studios or for anyone who wanted to, if I showed a positive gene in the test, because what happens for people who don't know, you get tested, they tell you in a wee envelope, I don't know if it's an envelope anymore, it's probably online, they give you an envelope saying you have the gene or you don't have the gene, and if you're positive for the gene, it means that you have it, or you're going to show signs of it, and if you don't have it and you're negative, then you're never going to get it. That's the thing, like you either get the Huntington's gene, everyone's got a Huntington's gene in the whole fucking world, and the people who are sick have like too much of a repeat in their gene, and so basically you either get your Huntington's gene from your mom or your dad, and if like your dad, like my dad had it and he got it from his mom, so what would have happened is if my dad got his Huntington's gene from his dad who didn't have HD, he would never have had it, he would never have shown signs of it, but because he got his Huntington's gene from his mom, he did get it. And she also, Helen, was somebody that I only knew as a sick person, because I know so many people have this in their family too, where you just are like, that person's sick. But she also gave me a wee ring, like a gold ring with M on it, and I remember just being like, that is a fire present for someone who's mentally ill. Like, she's not that ill, she got me like a really nice prezi. Like, I love presents, I love gold, and I love anything that's got like my initial on it. I don't know why. As a child especially, it was the first thing anyone had ever given me, like with my initial on it. And I remember that the way I remember my Auntie Sue, like my mum's Sikh best friend, my Auntie Sue is literally my blood, but not my blood. She gave me a little bracelet that was, I feel like, what all the Sikh children wear as babies. And I remember wearing that until I burst it because I was too big to wear it. And I just loved all that kids' baby jewelry. Like, there's something about a baby with jewelry on that's so blessed. So I felt very compelled by the way my mum had inverted everything. My mum had always talked about things you weren't supposed to talk about. She would say to me and my sister, you know, if it wasn't for you and Nina, then I don't know what I would have done after your dad got sick. She would say stuff like that directly to us, you know, just because she was being open. And she would always tell us what was going on. And if she didn't know something, she didn't know it. And if she knew something, she knew it. So she was very clear with where we were with everything. And I don't know, I always just felt like whatever she would have done was what I wanted to do. And I called, I remember just having like burn from surfing. I had like surfer burn or something from this activity I did in the water. I can't remember why I was like lying on my couch. I was lying on my couch in Los Angeles and I was just going to watch a bunch of documentaries. So I watched I watched Wasteland. And I was like, who fucking directed this? Because this is the greatest film of all time. And it's about healing pain. And it's about not being like scared of being from a working class area kind of thing. Like, it's very community based and very artistic. So I was like, Lucy Walker directed this. And then I was looking her up and I was like, oh, she's been at Sundance loads of times with her documentaries. I don't know how I got her phone number, but I got her phone number. And I just said, yo, I'm getting this result from like the HD test that I did. Soon I want you to document, like I want you to make a documentary about me. This is what I said to her. I said to her, I want you to make a documentary about me. And she was like, that's nice to chat to you, Mariana, but I'm so fucking busy. She was like, I have like 25 other projects. Like, she told me, she listed the projects she was doing. And I was like, that is so amazing, like, you're doing so great. And I was like, but when I tell you what's going on for me, you're going to want to do this documentary with me. And I also had never fucking done a documentary before, obviously, because I'm not a journalist narrative girl. I'm a fairy tale narrative girl, you know what I mean? I like the stories. I like to do movies about Eros, and he's just always there, and he loves you, and even in your darkest hour, he's there for you, and he like fucking gets on a plane and shows up for you and assuages all your fears, and you can do that for him as well. And I wonder where I got that from, because obviously maybe it's from my mom and dad being rad with each other when I was wee, but and still how our family is, we're no shame. When my Polish granny died, the whole family could have been like, yo, you have to stick around and like, what are you doing? But I just finally got this money for a bitch. Elijah Wood and I like were making this movie together that was because he had made this Iranian vampire film called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I felt like he could do bitch because I thought his production company, if they can make something with a woman that's as good as that Iranian vampire film, where they shot Los Angeles for Iran. If you watch A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, that whole thing is Los Angeles, and you go, it looks like Iran. Are you joking? Like, are you actually joking me? There's one fly in this flat. I'll continue to try and flick it away. So finally, it had like this ability to do Glow TV show season, whatever the fuck it was of Glow. I think it was season 2, where I was simultaneously shooting Glow in Los Angeles and directing Bitch simultaneously. I think it was the first season actually, because I remember being scared that I might, like, I was like, how are those schedules going to work out? And then they did. Because my lawyer was like, Mariana, my lawyer Tara at the time said, Mariana, you have this magical ability for all your schedules to just work out magically, and I know this one will too. And I was like, I fucking hope so, because if it doesn't, I don't know what I'm going to do. But it did, like, it just worked out. And like the day after we finished shooting, we entered film festival, we entered Sundance the day after I finished shooting Bitch. We entered the festival and we got in like days after that. We got into Sundance days after we entered. So nobody gets in days after you enter, because it just doesn't work like that. But because it was me, I think they twisted somebody's arm, or I don't know what the fuck they did, but they turned the moon into the sun for us and just made it happen. And that was the year that my babcha died. And everyone in my family could have been like, Mariana, what are you doing? Like, why don't you stay in Glasgow for this moment where we're all grieving our favorite person in the family? She was literally the person I was closest to in every way. And I wasn't running away from her death, but I felt like I didn't want to like throw away my contract with Ted Sarandos for Glow. I didn't want to throw away my contract with Elijah Wood for Bitch. I wanted to go and do those things. And my uncle was like, you know, Mariana, Babja would have wanted you to do stuff. She would have wanted you to keep working. And you can cry about it while you're working. You can cry about it after. You know, you can cry about it. We'll be here whenever you want to come back and cry about it. And also, you know, we're available. You know, that's the thing. You can phone people now. You can Skype. You could when you could Skype, that's when you could start to FaceTime after Skype. And it was like, oh my God, you can actually like contact people if you're on another part of this earth. You can actually communicate with people, family. So I felt that feeling of love. It's this maternal, all loving thing that Babcha had. My mom's mom, Babcha, was so loving, so Polish, so kind, so forgiving, and just so sweet. She would never have said anything like, why don't you come to my funeral instead of going to this thing, or you should spend more time grieving, or whatever it is. You know, she'd blessed it, and she understood it. And I really feel like when somebody dies that is that close to you, that's what happens. You get to go and do your big dream. And I went and did this big dream with Glow, the TV show, and did Bitch, and I went to Sundance, and before that it had been Lion's Mouth was at Sundance, which was the documentary we made about Huntington's disease. That when I did cut back to me on the phone with Lucy about it, saying the director, me being like, yo, I'm going to tell you this thing that's happening to me, and you're going to want to make a documentary about me. She was like, there's no way I can do a documentary about you, Mariana. Like, just to be blunt, I'm doing like 25 other things, and there's no way. But tell me whatever it is. But I know I'm not going to. And I was like, well, I'm going to get tested for HD. I can't remember what I said. I was like, I got tested for HD. They're going to get me the results in this envelope. And it's like this life or death thing where it's like you get told you're positive and your life is over, or you can't direct movies anymore. You can't do anything. No one wants to be your lover. No one wants to have kids with you. You have to do this goddamn IVF in a test tube up somebody else's street. That's not up my street. Like, I'm so organic. I'm like not that I was never excited about IVF. There's other members of my family that have only ever been excited about IVF, and they're like godsend angel, like science geniuses. And my thing is like, I'm stuck in the ground next to a tree and I cannot move. Like I'm like so organic. But anyway, it's not, there's no way to say that one thing is better than the other. They're just different versions of reality. So there was at the time this only option of, if you have a baby, the only option at that time was to do IVF. If you were positive, you would had to have done the IVF journey so that your baby didn't have it. And it was really like, done, done, done. If you don't do that, then you're going to be what you're going to be. Like, you have to do that. So there was so much judgment around that and like pain, because everyone's suffering around it. And so it's like people who have seen HD up close would do anything for their kid not to have it. And it's not about not wanting your kid to, like, no one wants their kid to have HD. So that's the issue. So we talk about this a lot in our family. There's so much like still that goes on about that, because everyone has a different opinion. Every woman has a different opinion. And then dudes have their own opinion too, and they're not even the ones who are carrying it. But there's dudes who have the HD gene, and they're the one that are at risk, and their wives or their girlfriends or whatever are the ones who have to go through the IVF in order to do this, because that's what their situation was. So there was so much of me wanting to find out, to understand more about what my choices were to have a kid or not have a kid and all of those things. So I'm sure I explained that to Lucy, and then whatever the fuck else I talked to her about on the phone I said, and then she immediately said, I'll do it. I'll do this film with you. I'll be at your house tomorrow. We'll start filming. And I was just pleased. Her DP was Scottish, thank God. Who doesn't love a Scottish DP? So I was like, oh my God, okay, we're going to be in good hands, literally holding this camera of truth, because documentary feels like real life. It's no joke. It wasn't like any acting job. It wasn't an acting job. It was just me and my family. And my mom, it's like me and my mom crying on my couch in LA. And my mom said something about it being a castle. That we had this magical castle with our family, that we were so happy. 2 daughters is such a gift. 2 girls is like, they say that a man is really happy if he has 2 daughters, because he gets to have a real blissful experience. So that's what we had. We had a heaven. And my mum in the doc, I think, described, in the documentary Lines Mouth Opens, described it as the castle falling down, that it was falling down like one piece at a time. And I remember just crying about it. And then somebody came over, some of my mates came over, and I think said, you're not going to have it. There's no way you have it, And then there's other ones who were like, you might have it, by the way. And then there were other ones who were like, I think you have it. Or I don't know what they said, but they were more realistic. I don't even fucking know what happened, because you block this shit out, And the only reason I remember it is because Lucy Walker made a fucking documentary about it. So I know that I was in Los Angeles, and I had to go from Brentwood to Westwood, which is where I was getting the information from UCLA. And I remember Bryce was in the car and Moet was in the car with me. That's all I remember. And I also think that I don't know, it wasn't the news that we wanted to hear. I'm like remembering now what happened in the doc, because I literally haven't seen it. The thing I remember is the poem, because I can say the poem in every which way, because somehow I felt like if I could memorize that poem, then we could heal Huntington's disease, that we could cure it. Like if I was a good enough artist, or I was a good enough actress, like if I was like devoted enough and a freedom fighter, if I was enough of an activist and I helped everyone in the world, then maybe other people wouldn't have to have this situation, that the younger generation, like our kids and our daughters and the ones like the little boys out there who are just like so wee and innocent, and you just like, You don't want it to happen to the kids. Whatever you've gone through as an adult, you don't wish on the kids. You just want to have done something difficult so they didn't have to do anything close to that level of pain or difficulty. And like the funny things about the kids in the family, the funny thing about the kids in the family is they're going to have their own stories, and it's going to be totally separate, and their own dramas and their own stakes, regardless of, you know, now that it's cured, there's going to be even more stuff around it, around probably like access and priorities and stuff like that. But if you look at, fuck's sake, if you even just like look at my Instagram, it's like every year I did a HD event. Every year we raised money and we sent it to Dr. Ed Wild. Every year there was one year we kept raising more and more money. One year we raised, when we raised $100,000 one year, I was like, oh my God, this is so epic. There was another year where we raised like $450 or something $1,000, and I remember that year sitting, because that was a year that I had done Glow as well, and I was sitting in my car drinking my matcha in LA before going to Glow. Like I was gonna wrestle Betty Gilpin or something that day, or I can't remember who the fuck I was wrestling, but I just remember crying because $450,000 is like a lot of money, and we thought we were like getting a $5 from our pals, you know what I mean? Like Peter Mullen would give us a $5, or like, you know what I mean? Like we thought, I don't know. My mom every year would give us these beautiful necklaces and incredible jewelry from Nancy Smiley's that would get auctioned off, and we would auction off lunches with ourselves. I auctioned off lunches with every person I ever fucking knew. So many of my mates were like, I'm going to a lunch for HD now. And people got to, like, HD families got to, like, hang out with somebody for lunch that they actually wanted to go to lunch to and talk to. Or someone who didn't even know about HD would come to our event and, like, start spending stuff, start giving money to the thing. And the thing about once you know about HD is you just keep giving money, because once you realize that it's this TikTok. Why am I saying TikTok? Because it's a clock. Yeah, it's a ticking clock. So you think it's a ticking clock. So you think, oh my God, there's a timer on this disease hitting all my loved ones. So here we go. Let's run for this. So the other aspect too was I was in Dunoon. I was looking good, man. Like I did Scottish Muscle, and I don't know why I was so on fire at that time. I felt very tapped in. It felt nice to do a film with Tallulah Riley. It felt nice to act and produce in something, and also get the Neds employed again in Scottish Muscle. I got all the Neds employed again on another film, which was my life's desire. So put that on my gravestone. The Neds were like, aha, do it again. I want all the bloody Neds to put me in a film as well, fuck's sake. They're old enough now. But I was doing that. I remember doing Scottish Muscle, and that was the year. It was 2024. That's the year that we did Lion's Mouth Opens, because I remember being in my like wee room in Dunoon, and being really scared of the HD thing. Like that's where the documentary kind of started in my head, because even though no one was filming me, but I was being told by my lawyers that I couldn't direct if I had the gene, if I was positive for the gene. And I was told by everyone else who knew anything about this business or whatever that if you got the positive gene, then you wouldn't be insurable to as an actress either. So to do anything. So then I really got scared, and I felt weird that I had done that. Like I felt like maybe I should just put it back in the box and pretend it didn't happen, because my priority was to be a director and like keep working, and I had like 25 films I still wanted to do and was planning on doing. And then it was insane, because I said to Lucy, because I was producing Lion's Mouth Opens as well with Julian, Lucy's producer, who's such a genius as well, like what a guy. So Lucy said to me, Mariana, this is why she's such an ethical human being. And she says this to all of her people. She said this to anyone who's the subject of her documentaries. And she has been doing this for years. But she said, like when she did the crash reel, she said this to the family in the crash reel, but also to me directly. She said, Mariana, if there's anything in the documentary you don't like, we'll take it out. If you don't want it to come out in the world, we won't put it out. Like at any time you can stop the process. It's in your hands to say, I don't want the world to see all this, because that means that then you're free. Like as a subject of the documentary, you're free. You don't have to be worried that you're being manipulated or someone is trying to do something that you didn't think they were agreeing to or you hadn't agreed to. Whatever it is that happens in other documentaries, I don't know, but Lucy didn't do that. She's very ethical. She is like a journalist. She takes it so seriously, like a very good one. She's like this cross between a journalist and a documentary director. I think that's what documentary directors are. Mixture between a filmmaker and a journalist. And I had never been scared of it, really. And then I was really scared when somebody said that I wasn't going to be able to work anymore. So that's when I was thinking to Lucy, let's not be so open about this, And I also said, Lucy said, let's put it into Sundance. And I was like, if we enter the festival, you and me are going to go. Because she said, she was like, but, we'll enter Sundance, we may not get in. And I was like, mate, if I put this salt, oh my God, this is the best salt in the world, actually. You guys have to get this rosemary salt from Dario. Oh, he's the best butcher in all of the world, but he's in Italy. Oh God, look. Dario, man, he's so beautiful. He's got such a good ethos with the meat. Anyway, he's got this rosemary salt. It's like his granny's recipe. You have to go get it. I think you can get it on his website. Can you even see that? For fuck's sake. Anyway, the point I'm making is that when Lucy said she wanted to put it into Sundance, I need to turn the light on, for fuck's sake. It's so dark. Let there be light! Oh my God, it's so dark. Scotland is dark. Who knew? Scotland. Oh! Look, it's pure action-packed shot now. Scotland gets dark. Who knew it gets dark? I didn't realise Glasgow was not going to be sunny every day. Okay, so what the fuck am I even saying? So I keep losing my trail of thought. I just can't believe it's cured officially. I knew it was cured already spiritually, but in this world, in this timeline, I was scared for the first time with HD. This is where I was scared. All the stuff that happens to you, in life, you get scared by yourself in your room by yourself. It's not actively out in the world when you're doing things or showing people something, or being on stage as an actor. You've really worked through your fears before that in order to be there. So it's like when I was directing Good Dick, I directed it. I got the bravery to direct it 10 months before I actually started directing it. That was the difficult time. It wasn't doing it. It wasn't just executing that bravery. So I said to Lucy, Lucy said to me, we can pull it at any time. And also when I said, let's not put it in Sundance, she was like, well, let's enter the festival and just see if it gets in, because it, probably might not get in. And I was like, all of Lucy Walker's films have gone to Sundance for the last 25 years. And all of my films have gone to Sundance for the last 25 years. These cunts are all our best friends. Every programmer feels like our family. Robert Redford is my dad. There's no confusion here. We're not trying to pretend that what she just said was true. It was the first thing Lucy said to me that I was like, that's such bullshit. I was like, because we knew each other so well by then, I was like, if we put this particular film, it's about what it's about, it's going to get in a festival, it's going to get in Sundance. So, we can't be if it gets in, because it will get in if we put it in. And Lucy was like, but, we never know. And I was like, oh my God. And so what happened was we made this promise, Lucy and I made this promise where Lucy said, look, we'll put it in, we'll apply, but it doesn't mean it's going to get in. So if we get in, we'll deal with the problem at that point. So if we do get in, I will let you say yes or no to the festival at that point. But Lucy's point was like, let's just try and get in and see what happens. And I knew that she was going to be really ethical about that. And that's when I was doing Scottish Muscle. And it was this place of like, will it get in and will it not get in? And then we found out it was getting in. And I remember being in Dunoon, like stuck in this. It was like I don't know where it was, but it was like some hotel in Dunoon. It was like a bed sit in Dunoon. And I was like, there was no food there. At night, there would be no food. So by the time I would leave too early to have breakfast there because they had a breakfast. It was like a bed and breakfast, but I was always shooting from like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or something. You always leave for set. So then this most beautiful like Highland man would always drive me to set and talk to me about Scottish poetry. And that was my breakfast. And then I felt really enlivened by doing this Scottish conservationist comedy and spilling this dialogue that was really funny. It did feel like a Nancy Myers film. God love Nancy Myers. Like I pray to her every night. I love you, Nancy Myers, and her daughter Haley. I love them. They're geniuses, but also Tallulah Riley had made this very unique thing for Scotland. You don't need that qualifier, it's just unique. I was thinking about how funny her dialogue is too, and how nice it is to save the mussels, how nice it is that she ends up with the working class boy. I like it. I like that story. So anyway, I just thought I started to kind of unravel. Like I started to see never directing again as a truth thing. I started to see not going to anything because I had come out of the closet or whatever about Huntington's disease. If people saw that documentary, I felt like they would judge me not on understanding the nuances of the disease or like anything about it. So it felt very appropriate to be not defensive, but realistic. I felt suddenly realistic when I had been like very hopeful and optimistic and dreamy and guided by my ancestors and guided by my mum's side of the family, like all these Polish, wise, light, full of love women who literally are the Babcias of our life. Like Babcias are very loving in Poland. They accept everyone. They're so nice. They cook for everybody. Their food is so good. But you have this feeling of home. Everyone in Scotland has a feeling of what it means to go home, and everyone in Poland has this feeling of what it means to go back to Babcia. Your Babcia is everything. So you always talk when you meet somebody, like if you meet a new friend in Poland, you talk about your Babcias. That's it. Like you talk about the Babcias first, and then you talk about other stuff. And so anyway, I felt for the first time bricking it in my entire life. I'd never been more scared than that moment, because it felt like all the work I'd done until that point was going to get taken away, that I would be judged and sent off to whatever land people who are positive for HD go to, which is a land where people don't work, they don't get paid, they don't get insured, they don't get revered, they don't get awarded for what they've done. And it didn't matter whether it was fair or not. It just felt like too close for comfort. It felt like I had the heebie-jeebies. It was like the stage fright I never had in my life. Like I never really was scared of the stage. But at that point I had like stage fright about this documentary. I was like, I'm just going to pretend we didn't do that. Like I know Lucy Walker made this documentary about me. I know I convinced her to. I know I've been waiting my whole life to talk about this. I know all this stuff about it, but I know it's for my dad and the community. I know it's for everyone out there who's sick. It's not even about me, but like, if we put it out in the world, it will affect my life and it'll mean I cannot do my job, which is all I want to do. The idea of not being employed as an actor for another reason that's not you're too tall, Polka, or I don't know, like I could do any accent under the sun, do you know what I mean? Or I could chop my legs off. I was always like, I could sit in a chair, guys, I'm not that tall. Yeah, I was always like, employ me no matter what. So this is like, you don't want to add to any casting director going, well, can she do it? Or is she sick or something? You know, like, is she, I don't know. Or being dropped by your fucking, God forbid, being dropped by your agent. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, imagine if, like, if Dallas Smith had dropped me, I would have been like, I get it. But also, like, that would have been a tragedy. And he never did and never would have. But at that time, I didn't know that fact because I was scared about everything. And because when a lawyer says to you, you're not insurable anymore, you won't be insurable anymore. If you come out and say this, you won't be insurable as a director. That's like a serious statement. And probably true for that lawyer at that time. It was no doubt true. And it had been true for directors before that. And it's the same kind of thing sometimes that happens when they're like, wait, so are you a woman and you're a director? Hang on. How are you doing that? And I'm like, oh, all I've ever done is direct films, like, since I was 21. So, sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. Or them being like, are you sure you can go down on this dive if you're a woman? It just doesn't make sense. You're like, yeah, I've been diving with a tank my whole life since I was 16. PADI certified master diver. Sorry. And I remember Lucy calling me. I'm now remembering it fully. Lucy called me in the middle of the night Scotland time, and she was calling me from Peru or something. She was on a mountain in Peru. And we had agreed to chat at this time because I was doing Scottish Muscle, and it was the middle of the night, so it was the only time I could talk to her. It was like 12 or something when we weren't shooting Scottish Muscle. And I was in my hotel room or whatever it was, a bed set by myself, and there was never a dinner there, so I could never even have dinner or breakfast. Like, I could never eat in that film because I always missed the timing. So I was fucking starving doing Scottish Muscle. The only thing I was pounded with or plowed with was tea, caffeinated tea, because that's what production design gave me to drink from, because my character Fiona was like an alcoholic. Like a very happy drunk, but a drunk. And I was like, okay. And they gave me caffeinated tea, and I would just drink on set, like thousands of pounds of it, thousands of gallons of it, litres of it, because we had to do continuity in every shot. And also I was supposed to be drinking whiskey. So I then was obviously caffeinated and insane and also just hungry. And I didn't know where my mind was. Like, I can remember being like just so grateful to have that job and excited to be doing it. And when Lucy called me that night, it felt like she was calling me in a very high stakes situation about something that was really high stakes and that I didn't want to deal with. And she said, you know, Mariana, like, I'm on this mountain in Peru, so I'm sorry if I don't have good signal. And I was like, no, it's okay. She said, so we got into Sundance. And I was just, I've never been more probably speechless or confused, and I didn't want to go to, there was no part of me that wanted to go to the festival. I felt so scared. And I probably said, you know, I'm not going to be insurable as a director if this stuff comes out about me having the gene being positive. And I feel very different about the film now than I did before. And I'm sure I said all this crazy shit to her, and she was like, okay, well, and I said to her, let's pull it from the festival, let's not go to Sundance. Because this is the fall, right? Do you know what I mean? This is the autumn. It's always the autumn time when they tell you you're in the festival. It was like always in September. It was always around my birthday when they'd be like, you're going to fucking Sundance. And I'd be like, yeah. And then you go in January and you have to plan. You have to like finish the film between like, I always had to finish films between my birthday and, well, with Bitch, I had to finish it in like 5 days, literally. But whatever you have to do it fast. So it was always the autumn time that they tell you that the festival's happening or not for you. And I also was always told it was happening. And so then with Lucy, I said that to her. And then she said something really wise and very chilled out, but also pretty fucking intense. She was like, you know what, Mariana, I understand what you're saying. Because she's also like totally tapped in. She's not somebody who isn't the most spiritual, wise, artistic, creative person. And she said, by the way, just take 24 hours and like think about it and then like get back to me before we pull it out of the festival. Like I will pull it out if you want me to. 100%. I'm just telling you, take 24 hours and let me know after. I think she said that, or I said that. I don't know, because after I had said pull it out, I remember just being really still and sitting there in my room, feeling very just sad and like you can't help what you have to do, basically. It didn't feel like I had a choice. But I knew I could call my mom, because God knows you can always call Basha Palka. And I phoned my mom from Dunoon. I think it was from Dunoon, or maybe I went back to LA and I phoned her from LA, because when I got back to Los Angeles, I just know wherever I was, whether I was back in Los Angeles after Scottish Muscle or like in my house in LA, or if I was in Scotland still, I knew that I was phoning my mom. I don't know if it was a FaceTime. Might have been a FaceTime, and she was in the bath, because my mom is always in the fucking bath, my God. You throw a stone, you find Bash Palka in the bath. Every night she's in the bath. Sometimes she'll talk to you when she's in there, and sometimes she won't. You know what I mean? Like, you could go in, like, I spent my childhood, like, knocking on that door and being like, sometimes she'll let you in, and other times she's like, I'll be out in a second or something. But most of the time she'd let you in and chat to you, and those are where you would have, like, the deepest conversations with her. Because I don't know why my mom is such an angel, but she is. The way that she would talk about my dad was so angelic, and she could have been so much more stressed out about it. She could have been aggressive and pissed off. She could have been angry, and she was obviously frustrated, but she never like blamed him, which is like astonishing. You know what I mean? Like she never blamed her God. She never blamed this world. She never blamed other people who didn't have anything to do with it. She just dealt with it and was such a visionary. So whenever I would have a problem, I would always call my mom and be like, yo, Basha, like, this is the situation. And the two of us had been like the healthy ones, you know, like for so long as a definition in the family, and the ones who were really, really, for whatever reason, artistic, very creative. And I remember saying to her, Lucy called me about, or I said something like, you know, Lion's Mouth Opens got into Sundance, but I don't want to go. And I asked Lucy to pull the film out of the festival because they said, you know, all this stuff, and I figured all this stuff out, you know, and I realized that if the film came out to the whole world, it would be really bad, because then I wouldn't be insurable as a director and like all this other stuff about the fear of it. Or as an actress. And then she just listened, and then she said, okay, well, Mariana, I'll just ask you one question. And this is like such an incredible like woman to woman thing that happened. Also like parent to child. It's really interesting, but also just human to human. There's something about it, like person who's dealing with this in the family too. I don't know, there's something so human about what she said. Oh, I don't know, it's very kind of like Jesus like what she said. You know how like Jesus went in and he just fucking threw it. My favorite thing is when he fucking throws all the shit, when there's all these people selling shit in the temple. Like there's all these people, all these cunts are like selling stuff, and Jesus goes in and he throws all their carts away, and he just shoves them over, and he's like, no, do not sell things in this church. Like, this is a temple we're supposed to be praying to God. Like, don't sell stuff attached to it. That was my favorite thing he ever did. I mean, I loved the turning water into wine and all that. I loved all his kind, like, lead with compassion, truth. But I also just loved when he would get pissed off and was just fucking human for a second, you know? And he was like, fuck's sake, that's fucked up. And there's things where I can say to my mom, like, I can say this thing was fucked up, man. And like, it just, you know, explain to her stuff that happened to me. And she will not, I don't know why she doesn't like judge it, or she's not coming at it from this place of like, well, fuck's sake, why did you do that? Or I don't know, like any other person would not have a million other like reactive ways of dealing with it. And my mom is always so serene and like tapped into the source and light filled and like Jesus like and Mary Magdalene like. But she said, Mariana, I hear what you're saying, and I'm just gonna ask you one question. And I was like, okay, yeah, go. And she was like, if you don't do this, if you don't put the film out there, if you don't take it to Sundance, if you don't talk about it in the way that we have talked about it as a family, in a new way, if you don't use those words and you don't share that perspective, if you don't put it out there, then I just wonder, if you don't put it out there just now, I just wonder who will. Who else is going to do that? Who else can do it in your way at the time, right now, with all these people who need it to happen in a way that's so informed about HD because you have it in your family. And, you know, if you can tell me a name of a person who can do that right now, who can go to Sundance and have the film do what it's going to do and go out there in the world. The film actually sold to HBO and got shortlisted for an Oscar and Emmys galore, but we didn't know that at the time. It wasn't about that at the time. I was just talking to my mom about like life or death vibes. And she said, if you don't do it, just give me a name of a person who could do that and would do that just now, who's not you. Tell me who can do that, who's not you. And it made me go like, oh yeah, right, like I'm not voiceless in this situation. Like I'm not the generations before where they couldn't talk about it, they didn't know what it was, they didn't have the words for it, they couldn't say, oh, this is what it is. And even the medical world couldn't define it. There was no term for it. Nobody knew what it was. They used to call it a chorea because they thought it was dancing. Like the first guy who named it called it Huntington's chorea. You know, like this fucking ancient, like Victorian medieval term for it. Because the people who had it they thought they were just dancing, but they're not dancing. They're like in total pain. Anyway, I was like, she's right. Basha Polka is right again. Kelsey, please. Wait a minute. Is Basha Polka right? Is the sky blue? Yes. The way she said it as well was so forgiving, and like she understood, like she knew, she was scared for me too. Like she didn't know if my whole career was gonna go down the tubes, or if like Dallas Smith was gonna erase my number, or do you know what I mean? Like she didn't know if the whole world was gonna block me. She didn't know if that was, she said maybe it could happen, you know. She accepted that maybe like my life as a director was going to end right there. She knew that could be the truth because I was saying that was true, but it didn't faze her. She wasn't scared of that shit, you know what I mean? Like she was like and the idea of tell me who else is going to do it other than you is like this thing that felt really like a blessing. It was like a prayer. I'm like quadruple Catholic, so I feel really like tapped into that light source, and I go, oh, it's a prayer of the world needs it right now. It's not really about me. Regardless of what might happen to me or how my life might change or what might fall apart because of this step, that stuff's going to have to fall apart. It doesn't matter if I don't direct again. I have to do it anyway. It doesn't matter if they don't give me money if I'm not insurable. Great. I'll just go ahead and like watch films from the sidelines, or like sit and watch films from wherever the hell I am, you know, or go to the theatre and like dream of doing a one-woman Hamlet but never get to do it. I don't know. There was a feeling of like, fuck that shit, just do it anyway, but also it was said so kindly. And I don't know where the fuck she got that information from. Like, she just was channeling this feeling of all the generations before who didn't have the video camera to make shit and talk to each other. We didn't have ways of sharing before. You know, like John Cassavetes in the 70s had this fucking huge camera, and it was very heavy, and all the film that had to go in it was so expensive, and it was very arduous. The whole process of filmmaking took a lot of weight, a lot of money. It was heavy. And now we have this light thing where we can go and do this stuff, and it's all very light, and it doesn't require the weight of the finance of like money shoved into it. It's like you can do it without the money. You can just do it. You know what I mean? My mum was like such a supporter of Solidarność in Poland, and she used to take pictures of us in little Solidarność t-shirts. My sister and I, these little blonde kids, and obviously that got shared with our Polish folks, and we got to say F you to the corrupt communist government, and we got to make art anyway, even though our lives were in danger in Poland. If you said anything against the government, or even you said I'm an artist, they'd just kill you, they'd shoot you because you said you were an artist. So you're not allowed to make art, you know, you're not allowed to have a religion, you can't like be passionate about these different things. You had to just be passionate about communism, which who can be passionate about communism really? In theory, it's a great concept, but in action, it doesn't work. It's not a workable thing the way that art is actually a workable thing that creates activists and helps people in different generations heal from previous generations and understand what's happened, because art is this ever-solving salve. It's like self-adhesive. It's like a magical little like if you have a scar, you're like, I'm scarred, and then art comes in and it just like heals your wound, and you're like, wow, that was a miracle. Like, how did that happen? It's like you saw that play, you saw that film, you read that book, you read that play, you were told that story. It's the hero's journey, it's the heroine's journey, and you've gone out and you've come back and you have the elixir with you, and you're stronger from being told the story, so you know that you're not alone. That's the thing. If you've ever been really like had your face smacked by art, or had cold water pulled over you because of art, or thrown over you because you feel that art is that effective, and you're stopped in your tracks by some art that you've seen, which is all of us, then you don't feel alone, and you don't feel like depressed. And it forgives us all. It's so like, it's so forgiving, and this film Lion's Mouth Opens is so forgiving that Lucy made. And what ended up happening is I like ate the humble pie, obviously. I ate like a whole fucking humble feast. I ate like a 12 Days of Christmas humble extravaganza, and I just sucked it up. And I was like, Lucy, I called Lucy back and I was like, my mom said this thing, and I told Lucy what my mom said, and Lucy said, yeah, Basha Polka, like from her bath in Scotland. Like, she got it, and it felt really good. And I was like, right, we're going to the fucking festival then. And she could then do what the tweaks or whatever she had to do to the film and knew we were going, and then I could prepare for the thing of January. But the other thing that happened is the programmers phoned me, like Trevor Groth phoned me, and he said he wanted to open the festival with Lion's Mouth Opens, because they were all like sick into their stomach. Like it makes you want to vomit. If you know me personally, that film, like the programmers at Sundance who are like my brothers in arms, like they are my sisters in arms, they are who I am. Like, we are each other's life. Like, we've worked in the same place forever. Like, whenever I go to Sundance with the film, like, they're just always there supporting, and I'm always there supporting the festival. And do you know what I mean? Like, there for the volunteers. Everything about it is very community based. So when they saw the film, it was very difficult for them. They weren't watching a film about a stranger. they're watching a film about someone they've known for 25, 30 years in a very different way. They've known me as like this director, movie star, whatever. And then this was very real. And they bricked it. Like, they shat themselves. You know what I mean? Like, they were all crying and people puked. Friends I had puked in the screening at Sundance. Friends I had like left. Friends I had fainted. People who knew me, who were just like fans or whatever, also like fainted and puked. So like we had a lot of intense reactions to it being out there. But I said, don't open the fucking festival with the film because it's too much. You know what I mean? Like, I knew it was going to be a huge reaction anyway, just in its like short film section, short documentary film section. Like, I knew it was going to be massive in there. So I was just like, that's enough. I don't have to open the fucking festival, because opening the festival with a little bit of a funeral vibe isn't the vibe of what that festival needed to be that year, I felt. And so I said to Trevor Groth, I was like, yo, don't open the festival with it. Like, I think that's a sweet concept. Thank you. That's a nice instinct. It just was like the kind of thing you would do if I was already dead or something, but I'm like alive and I have like so much more life in me. And I felt like, like I was like, open the festival with something that's like cinematic and like fucking raw and like this stuff that isn't about somebody's real life going down the fucking toilet. They said it was like a funeral. Bryce was like, it was like a funeral. That's what Bryce said to me one time at one of the fundraisers. Bryce came out to me and she was like, it's almost like your funeral, but you're alive. Or it's like the wedding you never got to have that you get to celebrate. We get to celebrate you in this large way. And I was like, fucking Bryce, I want to get married, man. Like, I want to get married. I want to have a husband. I want to have a fucking wedding that's bigger than this shit. Like, that isn't about a charity. Like, I don't need it to be, you know, I don't know. I didn't need it to be like me, my salvation. I always just wanted to get married and be low key. And I would have exchanged all of this bullshit for all of this madness just to get married to, you know, the guy, my Eros dream dude, who I've been making movies about since I was born or whatever, who I was playing with even as a child. And when I was like doing dollies and stuff, I was always like, they're together and they're happy and they're nice to each other and they work together and he goes to work and she goes to work and they come back and then they love and they kiss, and you're just like, okay, like, where is all this coming from? Well, I suppose it's just healthy relationship dynamics. This feeling that Betty White had with Alan Ludden. He was like, she's so fucking smart, man. Like, she's on Password. This is the smartest woman I have ever had on this show. And she's an actress. Like, what? Like, he was in love with her because she was so clever. And he had lost his wife. He had 4 children and he had 2 poodle puppies or something like that. And do you know what I mean? Like, they needed someone. She needed to step into that role. And he could see her in that role, I think. And as a real life, like, domestic queen at his house, not just a smart lady on Password, you know, or not just like a TV genius. I think Betty White was the first woman on television, which I think is so appropriate because she was a queen of TV. And she was the one that kind of didn't want to marry Alan Ludden in the beginning. And then Alan Ludden said, yo, I want to marry you, you know. She was like, don't talk about it. And he kept wearing his wedding ring for her. He wore around his neck for about a year before she said yes, which I think is the most interesting part of their story. His belief in their love and her shoving it away, and then him understanding how great it was when they were together, and that she kept saying it was just because she kept saying it was just because of his poodle puppies, like that she went to his house because she liked his dogs, which I totally understand. Sorry, like, all the men out there, but that is such a true thing. Like, women love dogs, so, and like, if you have a really great breed of a dog, it's cute, is more than cute. And dogs are so physical. They're really physical and they're attentive and they look at you. Those breeds that look at you right in the face and they give you eye contact, they feel very tapped into whatever it is we've got going on as humans, and very sweet. And I remember the kids, his 4 children, being like, check, 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 whenever she would say anything that was nice to him, or something that they got along about, or if he liked this type of food and she liked the same food, then the kids would go check, check, like they're ticking a box with her. And I just like their love story, because Betty White she didn't advertise that, that the most important part of her life was Alan Ludden and that love affair, and that they worked together. They were so clever that she made him laugh, and I know he made her laugh in this way that, nobody else did. They were so witty with each other and highfalutin and kind of anything goes, but also very passionate, and you could tell they were really feeling their feelings for each other. So that like ever-present love where you are the person's person. So the thing I was going to say was, cut to Sundance, 2015. We're there with the documentary and all these realistic things are happening, the people are puking and the audience members have never like vomited at a show that wasn't, or they would never vomit at a show. They've never vomited at anything, but they all vomited at this because they all knew me or they didn't know me and they felt it. And it was all really intense. And then HBO did buy it. They got it. They understood. And the thing about me not having to do Lion's Mouth Opens, the Woody Guthrie poem that Bob Dylan wrote for Woody Guthrie, I know it off by heart, and I still recite it as a kind of party piece. I used to say it to people all the time. I used to go to parties and just recite this thing, or I would sing whatever I was going to sing in a raw way and then say that as a kind of homage to what that poem really means, because Bob Dylan's talking about meeting Woody Guthrie in the hospital. He's saying that when your head gets twisted and your mind grows numb, when you think you're too old, too young, too smart, or too dumb, there's this thing where he feels like everything's happening wrong, or you think you're off, or you don't have you're in last place, or you feel like you're running out of all of the cards that you should have had. And it's this thing that we all feel, we all feel a wee bit by ourselves sometimes. And it's like your feet can only walk down 2 kinds of roads. Your eyes can only look through 2 kinds of doorways, and you can touch and twist and turn only 2 types of doorknobs. And he says you either go to the church of your choice or you go to Brooklyn Street Hospital. He says you'll find God in the church of your choice and you'll find Woody Guthrie in Brooklyn Street Hospital. This is after like 25 pages of saying why it's wrong, why you feel bad. And though it's only my opinion, I might be right or wrong, but you'll find them both in the Grand Canyon at sundown. And when I learned it, I had never been to the Grand Canyon. I didn't know what the fuck it was on about. Like, I think I saw it in Thelma and Louise or something, but I didn't know what it was. I knew that it was about hospitals and about Bob Dylan having to go see his mentor, Woody Guthrie, in hospital, and realize that there was no more songs coming out of Woody, that he wasn't going to be poetic anymore, that this goddamn fucking thing had taken him away. And what do you do when your bestie's gone and your idol is away and, you don't feel like Jesus is there anymore? There's no fucking wind at your back and you feel like so much fucking pressure. I know that Bob Dylan understood those moments. And I know that he didn't know what the fuck to do with Huntington's disease either. So that's why I learned the poem, because I felt like if I could recite that poem, then maybe one day that poem would save my dad's life. Like, me reciting it, if I could say that poem enough times, it would save my dad's life. And he would never have to have Huntington's disease, that we could be so advanced in the science that my dad would be healed and he'd come back. Not as like AI technology, not a version of him, but like the real him would just come back. And that's what I did everything for. Like, that's what I went to America for. That's why I came back to Scotland and worked over and over again here. That's why I was working in South Africa. That's why I fucking went all over the world. Because if I could do that poem, if I could say it in a way, or affect the world in a way, or have someone hear it in a way that would mean we could cure this disease, then my dad would be saved. And the thing is, like, we ran out of time on that one, because he died. My dad died of Huntington's disease, like, in a hospital, like Woody Guthrie fucking did too. He died the year that Glow came out. The year that Glow was on TV. Like, Ted Sarandos put Glow on Netflix. And that's the year that my dad died. So, in a funny way, like, thank God I had done the documentary before that. And it was different doing the Huntington's disease events after my dad was dead, because it felt like before that it was this rush to heal my dad and cure him and fix it. And then when he was dead, it was like, fuck, man, like, I have to heal everybody else and cure myself, or heal all the kids in the family, or whatever the fuck it is, and just do that. It was like the mission changed completely. We were suddenly in a completely different Shakespeare play. Like, it was totally different. I can't even remember what year it was the Glow came out, but like the year it came out, it was after Babja died. So I think all this happened 2016 maybe. He died 2016 maybe. 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's correct. Randomly, I got my dates right. My year's correct. But when he died, I was like in my apartment in Los Angeles in Silver Lake, and I was having these Glow events with the Glow girls, and like Kate Nash came over to my house, and all the Glow girls came over to my house to just be with me because my dad had died. And I was cooking them pancakes, and I remember Kate Nash saying, "Oh my God, like, how can you have the presence of mind to cook for us when you're the one whose dad's died, you know, like, you're so palka, you're so like whatever that is." And I was like, yeah, it's very Babja vibes, it's very Polish to just cook for everyone. I mean, I didn't think about it. I was like, if the girls are coming over, I'm gonna make them fucking pancakes, like, Jesus Christ, of course. And I'm sure the pancakes were fucked. It's like the same as the night before when I was in Brentwood and I was preparing to get the news for whether I had the gene or not, and I had my mates come over, and it was like a funeral, and I think I was cooking them some fucked up meal. I don't even know what I cooked them. Maybe it was a souffle, maybe it was beautiful, I don't know, but it probably wasn't that great food. But it doesn't really matter as long as you cook something. I'm actually a really good cook, but like under normal circumstances. then I also had this message from the crystal healing people saying, like, it's gonna be okay, and this is healed. And it felt like my dad was already partially up there in the heavens, because he hadn't been himself since, like, whatever decade I was 12, like, he hadn't really been himself for a very long time. So it does feel like HD takes, like, pieces of them away bit by bit, and then eventually they're gone completely. But it does make you realize that this is not a disease for the faint-hearted. It's very hardcore. You have to have such a thick skin and a huge, like, stomach for this disease. It's insane. The idea that people who have seen it up close can't even talk about it makes sense. People who see it in the medical world, it used to be very rare, and it's still kind of really rare. So even doctors who are really schooled on all these different diseases don't know a lot about HD, because they haven't seen a patient with it, so they don't know what the hell they're doing or talking about sometimes. But maybe that'll stop, and maybe that'll change now that it's more cured. And Ed Wild has been our wee blessed doctor who always was getting this money from us, funneling to him. And you can keep anyone who wants to give him money now, give Ed Wild money now. Like, he is the guy. He's saving us all, because he's literally saving his friend from this disease that his friend was at risk from, and had the positive gene for. So we go on, and it's a different day today than it was yesterday, because the rest of the world knows it's cured. I didn't just feel it inside. It's true. And I do have to thank everyone who came to every event, everyone who donated, everyone who saw the film and cried, or Lucy Walker and Julian, all the people who made the film. The people helped, like, I went to Sundance that year, and I kept saying that we were with the band, because look at my Polish honey. Sorry to interrupt, but I eat a lot of this, guys. I wish you could feel it and eat it with me. I wish you could have a bite. Oh, but look at my Scottish salt. It says, this is so Scottish, Scottish sea salt flakes, blackthorn, naturally crafted on the west coast by wind, sea, and thorns. Like, it's just like, okay, yeah, I do want that salt. There's nothing better than, like, a Scottish-Italian salt combo that I do. And I do have these crystals. I have so many crystals in my life, but this one is called it's the same color as my t-shirt, the Happily Ever After crystal. This is what it feels like. It feels like when the people who have died have really died, and there's no coming back, Like, it was all fun and games when he was sick, but when my dad died, he was sick for decades. They couldn't figure out why he wasn't declining faster, because they said he was going to HD was going to kill him faster than it did. So I don't know what that was about, but he was definitely living longer than anybody thought he would, which is kind of, there's something class and defiant about that. I have so many crystals. Oh my God. If you want to get me something, get me a raw crystal. I love them. This is also a crystal. It looks like a stone. It looks like marble, but it's crystal. The idea that I would do a film a year, it's also very high achieving Caliban syndrome. Caliban is the character from Shakespeare play, and it's the person who's the sane one, the survivor. You also have guilt. That's the big thing I forgot. Everyone feels guilty. Everyone who has survived HD or met someone with it or had it in their family, anyone who's dealt with it feels very guilty to be so healthy. And why do we get to have this life? Why do we get to run around and go to Waitrose and get our clementine juice? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is that? I get my ginger delivered with the Waitrose order and I go, wait, this is a bit jammy, you know, like, why are we the ones that didn't pass away from it? Or, you know, it feels like a hair like that is separating us from the previous generations where they were just completely mistreated and isolated and abandoned. People didn't know what to do with it, so they just didn't talk about it. But also this idea that I want you guys to understand, it's such a crapshoot because my dad is the oldest of 4. So like his mom had it. She was from Dublin, Ireland. Very classy family in Dublin. They've been on the same street for like eons. Since they built that street, that family has been on that street. So they don't move. But she moved to Glasgow from Dublin, which is not that far away, but she had a number of family members, and obviously she would have gotten it from her mum or her dad. My granny would have gotten it from her mum or her dad, her Huntington's gene. And then what happened is she had too many repeats of the gene, which is what causes Huntington's disease. So the more repeats you have, the earlier the onset. So there's kids who have early onset Huntington's, which is like the saddest thing. And they just don't get to have a life. And basically my dad didn't get the Huntington's gene from his dad. He got it from his mum. So that's why he started showing signs of it, because he had too many repeats, because she passed it to him. So he had a 50-50 chance of getting it. Like he had a 50-50 chance of getting the gene from his dad, like the normal Huntington's gene. And he had a brother and 2 sisters. Is that right? Uncle Jackie, what the fuck am I talking about? Auntie Mel and Auntie Angela, yeah. They all, like, out of the 4 of them, 3 had the gene and 1 didn't. And you're going, Jesus fucking Christ, those odds. It's so dramatic. There's nothing more dramatic. You can't even make a film about this shit. I mean, we tried to make a documentary about it. You can't even do it because you can't explain how insane it is. Lucy Walker did do a good job explaining it, but it's so dramatic. So then, out of people, the 2 people in my family who could have been positive, and you go, holy shit, like that's a lot of people who are positive, have the positive gene, you know, around us. And that's the part of it that feels really cutthroat. Like this disease is not fucking playing games. Because to lose family members like that in that way, it's so nuanced. And it makes the people who don't have it, who have a negative, who aren't positive, they're negative, they go, oh my fucking God, you know what I mean? Like they feel guilty. The guilt that you feel if you are the one who didn't get it out of all those people, you feel kind of insane. And how do you go to do your day? How do you get up and have your coffee and chat to your pals? You know, like it's so different than other things that people have going on. It's not the same as Alzheimer's and it's not the same as Parkinson's. It's like both of them together mixed. Very different rules for Huntington's disease, very different treatment, very different dynamics. And there's so much politics around people who don't have enough resources to deal with somebody who's got it in their family. Like, there's so many people I met in the States who don't have an NHS there, so they're just kind of like, what the fuck are we doing? There's a girl that I met who didn't have enough resources to look after her mum, and her mum had HD, and she didn't have enough resources to look after her mum. Never mind start thinking about the fact that she's at risk, or the idea of herself getting tested. Like, she's too busy not being able to have enough money to look after her mum, because the medical bills in the States are extortionate. And that's also why the Huntington's Disease Society of America is there, to support people who just are at their fucking wit's end, you know what I mean? And you could do like 1,000 documentaries about it. That's what I said to Peter Mullen, I think. When I met him, I was like, you could do 1,000 films or 1,000 documentaries about Huntington's disease, and it still wouldn't give you the full story of how actually fucking unique it is for each person, and how totally mental it is for family members to deal with it. People get violent, they get aggressive, they get frustrated, they get they lash out, they act in ways that they never did before. You know, they'll do stuff out of character that people are like, wait, why are you doing that? You know, people in society judge them because they think they're being a terrible person. Like, I think my dad used to like shoplift up and down Byers Road, and he was so wealthy for so long. Like, he was such a wealthy businessman and so intelligent. Like, he read The Independent every day, and he's the reason why I know about everything to do with mythology and science. Like, he told me so much about quantum physics. You know, he explained quantum physics to me really like often, and I remember just being like, this guy is so clever. And then he would have this full explosion about opera, or he would talk about Francois Hardy's work, you know, like he had these like deep cuts that he would go into about different musicians, or he'd go down the street of like knowing a lot of shit about American cinema, or knowing a lot of shit about Russian cinema. Like, he just knew everything about every part of the world. He knew like who was the head of every country. He knew what the political dynamics were in every country. He knew where there were freedom fighters, you know. And he told me about everything that was going on in Ireland. Like, he explained it to me when I was really young. He explained everything that was political so that I would know what that meant. He explained to me why the guy in Sinn Féin wasn't allowed to have his voice on TV. And it was like this deep story about why, you know, why Ireland needs to be one place, one country. He had a lot of relatives in Dublin, obviously, and felt really connected to that narrative and had so much to say about the Guildford Four. Also, he was so upset about the Guildford Four, because when they went to prison, he remembers being like, those guys are so terrible, and how could they do that and all that. And then when it turned out that they were innocent, he felt like to have a country, to have an English lawyer be so sick that he could put people away, that he could put 4 innocent kids away, or I think it was like 3 dudes and a lady or something. The Guildford Four, maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was really like the Guildford Six, but they were put away in prison and they were completely innocent. And that idea that any judge would experience anything other than tears of regret is insane. But he would tell me all this different stuff about politics and money and finance. Like, he would go into these like big long explanations that were really age appropriate, so I would understand what he was talking about, and it was really interesting. And he explained it really well because he was intelligent himself, so he loved history and he loved music, and he had such a passion for crazy tunes, like such a wild, eclectic music taste, and like the history of Polish cinema, what the Warsaw Uprising was, like everything to do with like the anti-communist movement, and the fact that we were going to change it, and we did, because by being pro-art we really overturned that government peacefully. The idea that communism was brought down by the artists in Poland who were funded by my family felt really good. And when that happened, it was our glory. It felt a bit like this moment, like HD being cured. It's like, oh, like it's our moment right now. Like it's a time to be able to talk about it in a way that maybe people won't, like maybe people will hear it in a new way, or people will give in a new way, or someone will start working with people who have HD in a new way. You know, there's somebody out there who's listening to this who's going, all right, like maybe I'll do my dream because my dream would actually help people, so I'll do my dream. Yeah, my dad was such an intelligent dude, so when he started shoplifting on Byers Road, it was insane. And people, it was weird because people who knew him one way would never have assumed that he knew him as this like designer wearing, he would always wear like cords, like really thick cord trousers, different colors, like very bright outfits for Scotland at that time. Like no one was wearing bright outfits. Like even gay men in Scotland were not wearing bright outfits, but my dad was wearing bright outfits just because he really liked fashion before he got signs of HD. So he was always somebody that people would talk to. He would talk to like the big issue man outside Greg's on Byers Road. He would talk to people who were passing him on the street, you know. And I remember, like, I realized he was shoplifting one time when we were like in a Woolworths or in like, I don't know where we were, but I saw him like put a sandwich in his jacket. And I just remember being like, it being so confusing because it felt like he's not of sound mind. He's obviously, this is like his Huntington's disease. It's like a symptom of it, that he would be all the things out of character that he was, you know, when he was showing signs of it. So that made sense. You know, he was shaking and all of those things that happened. So it felt really odd that he was shoplifting, because it was like, was I supposed to tell everyone that my dad's a shoplifter and like go get the police because he stole a sandwich, but you can't actually put him in jail because he's got Huntington's disease. So this is a symptom of his Huntington's disease. So like, I think I just left it. I wish it was such a black and white situation where I could have been like, hey dad, don't steal that sandwich. But it was too twisted by then, you know, there had been too many fucking twists and turns already. Like, it had been such a difficult disease to deal with because he'd been impossible to deal with. And people who would see us, like when we were dealing with the worst times of my dad, they would think that me and my sister and my mum were the ones who were having a problem because we'd be like freaking out or crying or something. And my dad was always like out in public, sometimes the one who was normal and fine. And we'd be the ones with like the realism on our face because we had like the history of his, what is the Huntington's disease in its like flared up situation, in its flared up moments. It's just impossible to handle for anyone. So you can't say, oh, you should do this or do that, because like I never say that to anyone who's got Huntington's disease in their family, because there's nothing you can do. You can't be like, all right, like, let's throw that sandwich back in the pile of sandwiches or something, because I don't know, because it's not his fault. That's it. It's not his fault. Even though he's at fault, it's not his fault. So therefore, that is like that's the real tricky part of Huntington's disease. It's really, really, really like there's no comparison. you can't compare it to anything else, you know? Like, it's not like him being a criminal for real, where he's decided to be a criminal, because if that was the case, I'd probably talk about him in a different way. But it was really, it's impossible to blame him for all the stuff that happened that was bad, but so much stuff happened that was bad. But we still deal with it, and we all talk about it, and we go, yeah, that was bad, you know? And we talk about who he was before, which I know was part of what he wanted to. The idea that I could go do plays and stuff like that, I think he had like my headshot in his possession. He was at Applecross, and I think it's like a home that has chandeliers and stuff. It's very nice. It's very kind of dignified. It's a dignified place where like a lot of the nurses are really top notch and talk to them with respect, regardless of whether they can hear you or not. You know, like people with HD in the last stages, you don't know if they're hearing you or not. They're probably not hearing you. So just in case, the folk there are like they're admirable, and they're like angels for looking after someone like that at the end of their life. And yeah, he had my headshot. For whatever reason, I don't know why he had my headshot. I think my mum brought it for him or something. And my mum would go visit him constantly. And my mum even wrote to the Pope. This is like, we should do a whole fucking video on this, but my mum wrote to the Pope to ask for a pardon because she had to divorce my dad and she didn't want to. But because of the way he was behaving, it was impossible to live with him. So she had to divorce him, even though she was like, this is the love of my life, and I'm Catholic, and I don't divorce anyone. And I especially don't want to divorce him because I love him. But she got a pardon from the Pope saying you can divorce under these circumstances. God understands. Jesus is with you. We're praying for you. And we're lighting a candle. Because they say in sickness and in health, and you think, yeah, it should be in sickness. But then if sickness comes, it's a whole other story. It's one thing if it's like a sickness that comes and goes and you go, wow, that was difficult. We lived through it. Now we can go back to being normal. Huntington's disease is like, you never had the life you thought you had. You didn't have it. It's gone forever. And what you have now is something that's upside down, and it's like crawling in a way that's very surreal and impossible to fathom or talk about or explain. And like, don't imagine that you could ever promise to assume that something like this would be something that you'd account for in sickness and in health as about. It's just not possible to fathom when you have that heart full of love and you're looking at your loved one and everyone you love is there and you just believe in love. It's almost like their love like surpassed the disease, because like, divorced or not, she always went to see him constantly. You know, and my babcia would like make meals for him, and my mom would bring them to him, and like, I don't know, there's something about like Polish babcia food that's just class. And in my belief system, they are in heaven together. I do think that heaven exists here on earth, and I think hell exists here on earth. I think you can live a heavenly life or you can live a hellish life. It's your choice, I think. But I also believe that there are other dimensions where people go. I think we have an astral body that is different than our physical body. And I think that he was away from his physical body a long time before he died. This is why we have to be lovers, you know? This is why I'm a lover, not a hater, and I'll always fight for the people. And if you invite me to a rally, I will go, you know, I'll go to a demonstration with a megaphone because I believe in the people. Like, I'm a lover, you know, like I do feel that we can make a difference, that it's okay to come out through pain and express what you feel is right, you know, and fight for the kids in Gaza. And know that war is not the answer and never was. The Universal Soldier is a really beautiful song that I also heard around the time that I learned the Woody Guthrie poem. Universal Soldier is a Donovan song. It's about the fact that he's 5'2" and he's 6'4". He fights with missiles and with tears. He's all of 31 and he's only 17. He's been a soldier for 1,000 years. He's a Catholic, an atheist, a Hindu, a Jain. I think that's what they used to call homosexual men. A Buddhist and a Baptist and a Jew. And he knows he shouldn't kill and he knows he always will. I'll kill you for me and my friend, me for you. And he's fighting for Canada and he's fighting for France. He's fighting for the USA. He's fighting for democracy. And he's fighting for Japan, and he thinks we'll put an end to war this way. He's fighting for peace and all of that. And he says, like, he's a universal soldier, and he really is to blame. His orders come from far away no more. They come from here and there, and you and me and brothers, can't you see this is not the way we put the end to war, is continue to fight. That's not the answer to peace. How could you fight for peace? How could you think you're fighting for peace? Yeah, my dad was very much an activist, very anti-communist corruption, really pro-freedom fighters in Poland, and this feeling that you can fight with your art to make a difference in this world, and it does work the way that Woody Guthrie's poem worked and helped a generation of people with HD, and then bled into my little hands. And I saw this little cassette when I was a teenager. I mean, I must have been like 14, 15, and I learned that poem like there was no tomorrow. And the Donovan song made me feel like that peace is really necessary. You cannot get confused about what's out there, you know? You can't be a militant anything. Even though I love the militant feminists, so many of the militant feminists I've met are men. I've met a lot of men in the States who are like militant feminists who want to kill guys who hurt women. And there's a lot of men in Scotland who just naturally like women. So, and everywhere in the world, there's so many men that just naturally like women. Just normal. Like, I love men and they love women, and it's just like this normal thing to be respecting each other, liking each other, and in rapport with each other. Like, if you're in rapport with someone like that, of the opposite sex, it's very dynamic, it's intelligent, it's very sensual, it's sumptuous, it's all these things that you get to be and see and hear, and you get to be challenged, and maybe you get to debate, or maybe you get to be enlightened. You get to hear something you haven't heard before. I mean, who doesn't want to hear that? That's why we go to the theater. That's why we go to concerts, even for bands that we've seen 1,000 times, because we want to hear something we haven't ever heard before. This idea that, you know, we all deserve second chances. If it wasn't for second chances, we would all be alone. And Johnny Cash said it with The Man in Black. He talked about that. Tupac talked about it. Tupac was like, why do we have to be making a G but making it in a sleazy way? Like, yeah, I made a G today, yeah, but you made it in a sleazy way, and his song changes. Like, Tupac talked about that. He was like, we used to be mates, we used to be friends as little boys, and now they're like trying to make us shoot each other. Like, why? How did that happen? And the eloquence of person, as someone who's tapped in, like the suffragettes who were just like, you know what we're doing? We're channeling the future. Yeah, maybe they were militant about it. Some of them were not militant and some of them were. So that's always interesting. But I think that you have to look at life from these long-term goals and think about how we can be leading with compassion, because the Gaza situation is off the charts. And, you know, like family member to family member and like mom to mom and baby to baby, you just go like, there's a thing in Glasgow that made me cry. There's always a thing in Glasgow that made me cry. When they called Nelson Mandela Square, I was like, they called it Nelson Mandela Square in Glasgow when he was still in jail, and no one thought he was cool. Everyone thought he was violent or something, and people in Glasgow understood his message and knew that Nelson Mandela was a freedom fighter, and they called Nelson Mandela Square Nelson Mandela Square, and that's where it's been in Glasgow, because he came here and he gave a speech about that Glasgow ethos that is, don't take our guy. It's like on the south side when there were like these ICE agents, like as if we were in America or something, who tried to take a guy away from his community in the south side, and Glaswegians are like, not on our watch, are you fucking joking? That guy's our pal. Like, don't take him away in a van. Like, they fought the people because they fought them off, and they were like, they protected him. Because refugees are not just welcome in Scotland, but they're necessary for everyone, for the economy. Why am I choking on my own words here? Scottish water is brilliant. But I just like donated to War Child and donated to, on my Instagram, there's like a Palestinian medical charity. There's also different organizations that are supporting Gaza, you know, like you can donate to Save the Children, and other places that I donated to are on my Instagram, because whether you can give 50 pence or more, you can also just share those places, you know, whatever your opinions are, whatever your belief system is, whatever your politics are, whatever your religion is. If you're atheist, you could still donate, because the kids are in need right now. They've always been in need there, but it's insane now because you go to that point of genocide and it goes into a place that's hard for us to fathom. When the UN has said it's genocide, and when you think about the level of suffering, I don't understand why they would be trying to make like a beach resort out of what literally is Palestine and Gaza. You go, wait, like, what is their intention? How could this possibly be? And it's the same story as any war before. You just go, how could they be that thoughtless, mindless, and cruel, and evil, and short-sighted? Is it for money, or is it for like gain of a zip code. Like, it's just an area that was fine before, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't need to be. It didn't need to be annihilated in this way, because it was just doing fine by itself. There wasn't a need to kill like 70% or 75% civilians, women and children. Like, that's the figure that really makes you sick to your stomach, where you go like, okay, so there's no war where you can say that there's like a level of a proportion of a reaction to anything that's happened to Israel. It's like, you can't say that that's the correct reaction to anything, because it's not the correct reaction if it was one person dying. But the fact that it's an entire group of people, an entire race of people, the numbers are just beyond belief. The mums, I can't even think about the mums and the babies and the pregnant mums. I don't know what to say other than, whatever your politics, you got to donate now to help the situation. And if you cannot donate, obviously just share the links of the charities on your social media if you haven't done that. And if you don't have a social media, just talk to people about it. You know what I mean? I started crying just there because I went into spin. I started to spin out because there's a... I'm gonna do it again. This is so sad. There's it should be a day for celebration for my family, but when you have these kind of high stakes in Gaza and Palestine, you go, nothing else matters until we end this war and this stops. Can we have peace, please? And we're saying that from someone who totally knows the situation. As much as I could ever learn about Israel and Palestine, I did learn, and I went there and I have been on the ground and I know what I'm talking about. It's not like I haven't been there. And I'm saying this, but even if I hadn't been there and I was saying this, it's fine. But I just thought that I have this on the ground perspective. So anyway, I keep trying to get this out because I can't, because it's so sad. There's someone needs help outside my flat. There's a thing that the mums in Scotland did. It's like a protest and a piece of art, and it's very Glasgow, and it's on the south side. You can go, it's like little children's little boots, like wee shoes or little thick socks, and they just have them hung on little pegs. It's like the most simple thing, but it's to illustrate children and babies who have died, and babies specifically who have died there, and to honor them. And it's about mums coming together, dads coming, anyone who wants to come goes to see that. It's kind of like an exhibition protest, and it's really beautiful that that's something that people made here in Scotland. And I'm really proud of Glasgow for the way that it protests. The specific way we protest here is so classic. We know what we're doing. We know how to do it. And we've always known how to do it. Glaswegians are the best when it comes to stuff like this. Like apartheid, we're gonna fucking sort that out. Palestine, everybody come here. It doesn't compute. The scale of what's happening is off the charts. So we're really processing the level of warmongering, jingoism, like saber rattling. It's very much as if there aren't human beings in charge of the situation. It's like, who raised these people? Because it wasn't anyone who's got a mom or a babja, you know? Who raised these people to have them go through, to have Jewish people go through and Israeli people go through the Second World War, and for them not to be like peace diplomats for the rest of time, for them not to be peace diplomats for the rest of time seems unfathomable. But then it is their Jewish faith that should be telling them not to kill little babies and mums and innocent civilians, men who are totally innocent, who are nothing to do with Hamas, just sitting there trying to be a person walking around the world, but walking around their land, you know? I feel like their Jewish faith, if they really listened to it, and if they really listened to their ancestors from the Second World War, are whispering to them, saying, you know what, like, don't make another war. Like, don't make war, just live in peace. And obviously, if they felt like they couldn't live in peace before, let's talk about it in a different way. Let's come up with a different way to be diplomatic. But let's not perpetuate genocide when genocide was just perpetuated on us. Like, that seems ridiculous as well. It seems unhinged. It doesn't seem religious. It doesn't seem pious. It doesn't seem righteous, you know? What would be righteous is if the babies got to live out their lives and not have been killed because they were in the wrong place. And just the enjoyment of being a mom and a dad, and the just natural way that you want to be able to raise your kids without a war around. Everyone wants that, and everyone deserves that, you know? It's a human right. It's a real human right to be able to walk around and have peace and feel peaceful and know that next door is peaceful and over here is peaceful and everybody's peaceful, and you feel like you're not in a place where your right for that peace is questioned. There's a lot of my Jewish friends in the States who are so upset. They don't feel like this is their, you know, it's not like what their God would say to do. Their God would say, yo, let's make a peace. And I also feel like I understand the history of that part of the world. I get it. You know, when I was there for the Israeli Women's Film Festival with Good Dick. I was there very early 20s, like 21, I think I was. And I was there, I saw everything, and I felt this feeling of everyone on top of each other, in a sense of every religion. Like you have Muslims, you have Jewish people, and you have Christians all on top of each other in the same place of the world, in that same part of the world. And it is so hot there all the time. So everyone is overheated and tetchy and kind of waiting to be annoyed with each other, because if it's not one person annoying somebody, it's another person. So this feeling of each religion saying this is our holy land also feels quite immediate and challenging, because it's not just, it's not just those people saying it and being apart from each other. It's like they're all on top of each other. So the people that I spoke to about the situation, I talked to I would say thousands of people over the years about it, but also people who are coming at it from different points of view. But everyone basically is agreeing that this is an overstretch, it's an overreach. There's no level of violence that is... I mean, it's a war crime, so everyone agrees it's a war crime, and we gotta, do something to stop this horrifying situation. And you want to just say, if they keep othering each other, it won't end. So you have to stop othering each other. You have to listen to people on the other side of what your opinion is and hear them out in a way that's not based in being violent or you being defensive, but you have to listen to them and hear that really what's happening is not everyone who is in Palestine is Hamas. That's true. So to assume that you can just go in there and destroy everyone and everything and all of their lives because Hamas is in there somewhere, it's not a justification. There are Christians there, you know what I mean? And there are Christians being destroyed and killed right now, even though they're there. That's insanity as well. So it's all really intense, and got to bring the temperature down on the discussions. And even in debates, the way that people talk to each other needs to be with compassion, leading with diplomacy and respect. And you don't have to bring up what I see happen a lot of the time, where everybody wants to talk about the past and what happened on the land before. And you could say that before Jesus there was so much going on there. There was whatever, the first time there was a nation there, you could say who that nation belonged to, but it doesn't matter, because there's been so much stuff that's happened over and over and over the centuries, and that point doesn't fly, you know what I mean? We can't keep fighting over these territories. And also, you think that somebody would say, people were this used to be Egypt and all of that, and people said that all the Palestinians should go to Jordan, and Jordan said, we're not taking them. And you go, well, hang on a second. Whatever happened to the two-state solution? That was a thing. When I was there, the two-state solution was kind of working beautifully. And I long for that time back, because it may not have been perfect, but two-state solution is fucking dream come true compared to what we have now. I just think that it's so dehumanizing. It dehumanizes us all to see that level of destruction. I don't understand the good of it. There's nothing... It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help anything. And yes, there are two sides. And yes, you have to talk to each other. And I think that if you can get them in the same room and actually try to say, you know what, we disagree, but let's agree on a two-state solution again. But I don't know how you bring Palestine back from the destruction that it has now faced. I know that Warsaw was brought back after, like, Germany just destroyed all of Warsaw for 4 years in the war. It was just like flattened. The old town that was like before medieval times was flattened. And the only thing that was surviving that wasn't flattened like this, sticking out of the ground, was this Christ on the cross, Jesus on the cross, sticking out of the ground, and everyone in Warsaw saw it. You know, people who weren't Catholic were like, maybe we should be Catholic, because Jesus seems like a fucking pretty cool dude if he could survive this total fucking annihilation that the rest of the city and every building and all of us died from. Like, but Jesus is still here. There's something about that, you know, like the Warsaw ghetto, what they had to deal with, the way they had to fight. There's something about that level of beauty that I just appreciate. And also, it's like the universal soldier. They're going to keep putting us in these wars, and we'll be a universal soldier. And, you know, his orders do come from far away, but also we're all responsible for what we do every day. And I don't know, I don't have the stomach for this level of genocide. I don't really have a stomach for it. I can't cope with it, because when you're a woman and you like create stuff and your body is built to make things and create life, the idea that someone would take it away violently from another mom and another dad when they've created something like a baby, or the pregnant ladies who are being also killed, it's so horrifying. And you know, we like sit in these castles of our own invention with this online bullshit. I know it's ridiculous, but I also think it keeps us together, and it helps us heal each other, and it helps us come back from the brink, you know. I don't want anyone to kill themselves over this war. I don't want anyone to be isolated because of this war. I want people to know that they have a home, that they can find a home again, or I don't know, like I'm not going to tell anyone what to do, but I just want people to know that Scotland is here and will welcome you. The Scottish government just came out with a statement, which I am so proud of, and also John Sweeney put it on. He's the head of the SNP, and he's the head of Scotland right now. He put it on his Instagram, and I reposted it. I think I put it on my Instagram too. I read it and I loved it. It was helpful right now, because to see a Scottish flag with a Palestinian flag felt appropriate. And also, we need to stick together in this country and in all countries. You know, we have to remember that we're all brothers and sisters. We all have a granny, you know, we all have a babcha, so we all have mums. And I think that we're meant to, I could say, you know, I can't believe that this killed my dad or this other thing hurt my family, and therefore I'm going to come out and not leave my house, and I'm going to act insane and just to be aggressive, and I'm going to do all this stuff against the world because I've been hurt. But actually what you have to do with pain, and I think the Baptists in Poland know this, and this is why there are no serial killers in Poland. There are 0 serial killers in Poland, because you take that pain and you turn it into art, or you turn it against a corrupt government, or you turn it against a corrupt war, or you make art that's positive in a way that's pro whatever it is you're saying. You don't have to be anti this, but you can be pro the other thing. You know, you can say, I'm pro civilians, I'm pro babies, and I'm pro mums, I'm pro the dads, and I'm pro people who are out there who don't deserve to get killed, who have been absolutely annihilated, and the shocking nature of it is just unspeakable. And we do have to work together in this time. You know, we have to stick together. So anyway, I think that there's a lot of emotions flying around the war, and it's something that I will fight for. And if you guys are around, my friend Stephen has this film about some runners. It's a documentary. Stephen Sheriff, like my best friend from Scotland, has a documentary about Gaza that's playing at the Kelvin Hall this Monday, which is like the 29th or something like that of September. Yeah, it's like you can get tickets for it, and it's going to be incredible. So anyway, it's from 6 o'clock until 8, half 8 or something. Anyway, it makes me cry, and when you think you're alone, you're really not. I think that's the point of all of our jobs out here, and it was really challenging. It was really challenging when, you know, it's been 2 years, and when you feel like it's just impossible to fathom that if it had been one day, and now it's been 2 years of this war. Anyway, yeah, on the bright side, just let's again lead with compassion and just go out there and like do everything we can to heal such a sore place. And it's the irony of, if religion is such a big deal to you, you know what I mean? If you're Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, if religion is such a big deal to you, where's your peaceful vibe? Religion and being militant doesn't go together, you know? We figured that out a long time ago, and I think it's a key element to making sure that the people in this war put their weapons down and start to talk diplomatically. There's nothing cooler than the superhero-esque version of a human being where they can stop being a warrior and start diplomatically discussing how to help their people, instead of fighting for their people, but how to help their people. And you can really be a radical person diplomatically on a diplomatic level as opposed to violent. And you know, none of us perfect. Humans are so fake sometimes, and we're so full of shit sometimes, and we're really wrong sometimes, you know. But I tell you who's not wrong is those babies and those mums and those dads in Palestine who just got shafted for no reason. So it's not just Glasgow that's on your side, and it's not just all my people in Poland that are on your side. It's like there's so many people in the States that are on your side. I know a lot of people who are atheists and they're on your side, or they're even a lot of people from Israel who are on your side. There's a lot of Israeli Americans who are on your side. There's so many people who are young kids in the States fighting for this too. You know, there's a lot of universities in the States where they're on strike, like they're not going to classes in their uni right now in the States because they're having a pro-Palestine rally for the whole day, and then doing that every day. So the kids get it. You know it's a problem, and the kids are like, I'm not going to uni. And yeah, just to say, reach out, and if you need to, it's okay to just share how you feel about everything, because sharing feelings and sharing conversations and sharing dynamics, like definitely without name calling, is the way to proceed in this situation. It's what we did, you know, it's how we heal after a war, it's how we go through the concept of peacemaking. It's how you start peacemaking, is you stop shouting and you stop screaming at the other side and you stop being so defensive. Like, defense is the first act in war. Defense is the first act of war. And I feel like the Israelis got like so defensive that they like started a war, which is so like, it's just insane. Like, if you told the generation right before them would be like, guys, they'd be like, yo, we just got over the Nazis like 5 seconds ago, so let's not do anything except live in peace and be in that heaven of just being with your family and having neighbors that you respect. Like, you don't have to agree with your neighbors, but you don't have to have the same religion as them, but you can respect them. That's the whole point of coexisting and collaborating and being in collaboration as a person. You know, you can be like open-minded, you can have all your opinions and you can believe all the stuff you believe, but you can also be open-minded. Like, when I talk to someone who's atheist, I'm always really, really interested, because I am so spiritual, I'm so religious every day. I feel so connected to God, like on a daily basis, and it's such a spiritual link. It's such a light inside me. And I just am so fascinated. If there's somebody who's an atheist, I want to know what they're on about. I'm like, wow, so how do you operate? And that's so cool. Like, they have their own belief system and their own ethics, but it's nothing to do with this idea of God, where it's more about their thoughts about what is right and wrong, you know. And it's a different way of being. It's very cerebral, and it's totally different from me, where I'm very instinctual and I'm very like guttural, and everything comes from my insides and spews out all over the place. And I'm totally aware that culturally you can have complete massive differences with a different culture. You could be like, that, you know, we're different culturally, but it doesn't mean that we're not best mates or neighbors, or that we can't sit at a table together in community. That's the point of being a human being, is that we're not all the same. And good God, did we not understand this already? Like, it's kind of immature to imagine that the whole world should be like you, or the whole world should have your belief system, or I don't know why people start wars, but I guess it's got to do with making a point. And you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need to make that point and have it cost the lives of people who are totally innocent. So many people who are totally innocent. And when Hitler invaded Poland, nobody thought that was going to lead to 4 years of war. No one thought that the American soldiers were going to come into the concentration camps with just having like lipstick in their pockets for random reasons, and seeing these women who were emaciated and like falling apart because they were so hungry and dying and almost dead, like these basically almost corpses, ladies. The American soldiers like brought them lipstick and like put it on them, and these women were like, oh my God, this is what it means to be a human being again. And for those American soldiers to understand that level of dignity and freedom and bring it in their little pockets, the gifts you can give in a war zone and the gifts you can give human to human after a war is over, the gifts you can give are infinite and, unfathomable right now, but necessary. Those steps are so necessary. After the genocide in Uganda, they had Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where people who had killed or destroyed other people's whole families would stand up there with the one survivor, and the one survivor would talk about why and how exactly they forgave the person who did it. And the person who did it was standing next to them, and they would have the person who would be having they'd be amputees, and the person would say, "I'm sorry for killing your whole family and taking your arm away and all the other things that happened." And the whole nation got to watch this Truth and Reconciliation, and it wasn't normal drama on television. It's not like something that Gogglebox can talk about. It's not something the BBC can report on because it's not fathomable in our way, in our media. It's not digestible, that level of human deep forgiveness that's a spiritual, I forgive you, I don't agree with what you did, but I have to forgive you for my own sake, or for the sake of my family members, or if one of my family members might have wanted to forgive you, I'll forgive you for them, but I'm not going to be best friends with you. We're not mates now. That level of someone has to face it, because otherwise, if no one's forgiven or nothing, if forgiveness isn't even discussed, then what do we talk about? How do we move on? How do we move forward? And then there's the whole thing of war crimes and how they have to be actually, criminally accountable in court. At The Hague, they could go and get told off at The Hague, and it's would they stop? What would make Israel stop now? What would make them have a ceasefire? All of us saying this over and over and over again, please have a ceasefire. Is that going to help them have a ceasefire? You know what I mean? Because if that is what it takes, then we have to keep saying ceasefire, 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 We covered a lot of bases tonight. And I don't know a lot of shit about anything, but I do know that war is unjust. And I don't know a lot of shit about anything, but I do know that my mom is responsible for Huntington's disease being cured across this whole planet right now. It's single-handedly, I can see how my mom saying that to me in her bath when I was doing Scottish muscle in Dunoon, fucking just on the phone with her or on FaceTime, and her saying, if you don't do it right now, tell me who will. Give me a name of someone who will do what you could do right now with that film. That fact, her bravery, it was this little bravery angel's wing, butterfly wing that had this huge effect. It changed my life. It changed Ed Wild's ability to be funded. It changed his life. It changed... it was this domino effect of people not being scared of the disease anymore. And I never got... By the way, nobody ever said, Mariana, you're not insurable anymore. No one ever said that to me in real life. No one ever said I wasn't insurable, because it's kind of I could go to court and defend the fact that I am insurable, so no one's going to want to take me to court about it. So they're whatever. Nobody would do that. But there was the fear there in the beginning. So the fear is what stops everyone from fucking doing everything. And if people could just suck up the fear and listen to my mom and her advice and go, okay, if it's not you right now, then who's gonna do this today or tomorrow? You know, who's gonna do that? So just do it, you know, and be the change you want to see in the world. And also Maya Angelou said to young people, she said, I want young people to know if they're scared. I want them to trust life a little bit. That's my advice. Just trust life. And if you're at your wit's end or you're at the bottom of a barrel or you feel like you have just been through the ringer, you know, it's okay to trust life. And I think that's what I meant by the lipstick on the people in Auschwitz. Like, that was the first thing that made them feel human. It's also something that I remind myself about with characters that you play as an actor. There's some times where the character will have a chain, you know. All my characters, in all my films, I make them wear gold chains because believing in gold for me is like a religion. In cinema, gold like highlights their eyes and it makes it cinematic. And all the films I saw that were Polish, like Lovers in Poland, or anyone in a film from the 70s or whatever, you know, like any new wave films I watched, everyone had gold chains. Even in 1970s American cinema, everyone had gold chains. So I felt compelled to always have gold chains and everything. But in a film or on the stage, if you have a character and they have a chain and they're wearing it inside like that, you know, if they're wearing their necklace like that inside, it tells you they're an introvert. Maybe they're shy, maybe they want it close to their skin so they can feel it. They know what they're wearing, you know, they got it as a gift maybe from their mom and they want to have it close to them, or it means something different if they're wearing it on the outside and they want the world to see it, and they're extrovert and they're beaming and they're bright and they're a star. You know, they're a star of their life where they feel, you know, that they're okay to show stuff off and they want to talk about it. If someone asks them about it, they're like, yeah, this is my thing. It's my necklace. They wear it on the outside unconsciously because they are okay with the world seeing them. And internally, if it's inside, there's something else it says about the character. And I can't remember which costume designer I work with who told me that, but it was the coolest thing I've ever heard a costume designer tell me. And I just always went with it. And I always talk about that because it feels so vibrant and engaging. The concept of, like, if you have a character, you can be like, yo, Reggie Walsh on Glow would have worn it. My character on Glow would have worn the chain inside. Because she was kind of shy. She was an athlete. She was a genius athlete. But she wasn't chatty Cathy. She wasn't interested in dialogue. You know, she was very kind of like not smiley, very serious, athletic, and an introvert. So she wasn't like a big smiler. And I smile all the time. So I had to be like, my whole job on Glow was just not smiling. Not laughing at the psycho girls that I was doing Glow with. Like, they were so psycho funny. They were funny on another level, all those Glow girls. My whole acting job was just like keeping a straight face in front of them and protecting them with my body. So also I felt like every other character I've done, like Minerva from Girls would have worn the chain on the outside because she was up herself. I've never played a character that was more like up her own arse than Minerva from Girls. And I got to say to Adam Driver, hey, I wrote him a letter or something, and I wrote everyone a letter that because I wanted to say thank you to them. And I put it in like all their trailers, and I gave everyone, like the heads of department, letters as well. And I said something about, I don't know what I wrote, but I wrote nice things. And then Adam Driver came into my trailer and he was like, thank you for your note, and I'll see you on the ice. And I was like, yeah, man, that's such a cool thing to say. You know, like, thank you, I'll see you on the ice. Like, he was standing there chatting to me for ages, and then he was like, see you on the ice, like, see you up there, see you out there. I just made me want to like fucking ice skate with him and be like, let's fucking do a flip for America right now together, and I'll land and you catch me. But I also did something where I thrust my vagina hips into his hips or something. I thrust my whole hips into his hips. When I was hugging him, I hugged him with my hips because the character was so sketchy and such a skanky, like, controlling person that she always wanted to like steal her sister's boyfriends, which I have no concept how anyone could ever want to do that, you know. But I guess there's people out there who do that. So I was like representing those people, because they exist. And also people who have had their like siblings steal a partner. That's happened before. So in real life, I'm sure they're, you know, wanting to be represented beautifully. So I was excited to do that. So I hugged Adam Driver with my hips, like hip first, and you can see it. Like Lena Dunham kept it in the one take that I did it. That's the take she kept in. And I think Lena was laughing about it. The idea that my character Minerva would hug Adam with her hips instead of her whole body. To meet a person and say hi and then just hug them with hips. And I had my Scottish kilt that my babcha got me from M&S on Argyle Street when I was 14, and that thing still fits me and it's like a godsend. And I feel like that kilt got me everything. It got me girls, and therefore it got me glow, and it got me everything. So it's funny how that kilt is literally my lucky charm. And it is like a black watch tartan. It's really nice. Anyway, I do think that the idea that we're all working in it together and you're in a collaboration for so long also feels like a summer camp, art camp, high-end vibe. And I haven't even talked about the I Swear premiere because that was like such another level of stuff to talk about. But I saw I Swear and it was really good. So it's coming out in October. So everyone go see that as well. So, what an intense day for the Palkas. And people always said to me, you know, like, how could you be a director when you were so young? 21. How did you start directing as feature film at 21? And I was always like, have you met my mom? Or have you met my dad? Like the person my dad was before he got sick, like the person that he raised me to be. Like I was the daughter of a king. He was very clear about art making money for you, dreams coming true. And also this idea that quantum physics was so real to him, that it was really kind of like his other religion. He felt really connected to it and felt like whatever you wanted to have happen, you could manifest and it could come to you. Specifically, your dream that you want. Like I knew I wanted to act and write and direct. And not everyone knows that. Not everyone has that calling. Some people want to be a librarian for the rest of their lives. That's a beautiful calling. Some people don't know what their calling is and they're like seeking it out the whole time, and that's fine too. But if you have this dream, you know, of something specific, you can get it. It's fine. You can just get it. So if you're loving something, like I loved theatre, I loved Polish film, like I salivated at like Cantor plays in Edinburgh, like I salivated, like I was just like, these are my people. So God let me be in the theatre, you know. I was ready to devote my life to this stage. I would have fucking been a stage manager, I would have been a costume designer, I would have been anything, because I just loved it so much. And the theatre's so egoless that you get to do that. You get to do whatever the fuck you want. So basically I'm saying, like, people out there who have a dream or don't know what their dream is, it's all good shit, because even if you don't know what your dream is, you can just quietly think of something that you go, okay, I do want that thing. So maybe I'm not going to shout about it to the whole world, but I can manifest it on a personal level, because I do kind of want that thing. So there's ways to comprehend how powerful we are in our own midst, at our own beck and call. You know, we want to knock ourselves out. You know, what did you do the last thing that you did? Okay, so knock yourself out. Knock yourself, go to the next level with the next thing, because you want to knock yourself out. You want to impress yourself, and you want to do that as good and as often and as young and as old as possible. And it was Easter, like decades ago, when Betty White said yes eventually to Alan Ludden. She kept saying no, 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 and like shoving him away aggressively. And then she said yes because he sent her for Easter an Easter bunny, like a little stuffed Easter bunny with like little diamond earrings for her Easter, and with the ring attached. And he was like, will you marry me? And it was like a package that came to her house in Brentwood, and she opened it, and he was always in New York, and she looked at the bunny, and she was like, any dude who would send me a little cute bunny, I say yes to that guy. Like, she is the only woman in the whole fucking world who didn't look at the diamond earrings that he also sent, and the diamond ring he also sent to be your wedding ring. But she married him and said yes finally after a year of saying no, because he sent her a stuffed bunny. She said yes to the stuffed bunny and not the earrings. Like, she was a fucking class act, that woman. Like, Betty White fucking loved animals. She was like Jane Goodall before we had Jane Goodall, so thank God for her. I like that story. I like this idea that we've all had past lives with each other, and we can look and see, who have I had a past life with? I feel like this is a person from a past life. I feel like when I met them, it was like that. We were picking up where we left off. It wasn't like you ever had to say hello, and you never have to say goodbye to them because you have a past life connection. So you've said hello and goodbye millions or infinite amount of times. It's not even millions, it's not even billions. It's an infinite amount of times that you've had past lives with them. So you've been everything to each other. You've been the master. They've been your assistant. You know what I mean? You've been the boss. They've been your boss, and you've been the lowest person in their firm. Or they were your husband and you were their wife, or you were brothers and sisters and you loved each other and as brothers, like, and you made a company together and you changed the world, or you healed a disease together in your firm that you created together from scratch. You know, you do something like life-changing with these individuals because you're brought to this earth to heal the planet together, and through your relationship it's as if 1 + 1 = an infinity. There's some people that you meet where that it feels like that 1 + 1 = infinity. You and them equals the whole fucking universe, and you just go, oh my fucking God. Yes, we had a past life vibe. Past life vibes are so happening, and they're more discussed now, you know. So anyway, I'm not gonna lie, it was a shift. Trying to cure that disease was a fucking shift. And I'm telling you, it's not a cakewalk. It wasn't a cakewalk, and it won't be a cakewalk. It'll be a cakewalk, but there'll be no challenges from now on. But I'm sending love to Dr. Ed Wild, Mr. Angel, who has just been like my bestie in my corner for so long, and goddamn helped the whole fucking family. So can't love him or thank him enough. And you can always go to the website. It's huntingtonsdisease.org. There's so many websites about Huntington's disease now that are really informative and all that shit. And maybe I'll do a video of the Lion's Mouth Opens poem. I might do that soon. But anyway, this is a wee bit dedicated to my dad, since we didn't have time to squeeze him in and save him in this lifetime. So it's all for a good purpose, and I'm not sure what that is. But maybe with time I'll know what that is. But for now it's just like the honey has come out of a beehive, and we're like, oh, okay, wait, that fucking thing's making honey. Maybe it is okay I got stung. Maybe it's worth it if I'm just fucking dripping in honey now. So thanks to everybody out there. And if you worked on all the shit that I have been doing and I didn't mention you here, it's because I'm including you on an energy level, because we all worked so hard for this to happen. Like, there's people that gave their fucking lives and they volunteered, they donated their time, they gave money, they were a shoulder to cry on for me. You know, there's so many mates I had who were understanding of this insane fucking thing that was impossible to fathom, and you know, we were mates anyway. So I'll always remember my dad and me in our house in Thornton Hall, because we lived in like mansion houses as a child. Well, we lived in mansion houses. I was born in Thornton Hall, 5 Thornton Avenue. It was like a mansion house that Neil Lennon ended up living in. Like, one of the Celtic footballers ended up living in our house after we moved. But before we moved, when I was still living there, like, my dad used to have me. He used to hold me and take me around the house and turn all the lights off, because our house was so fucking big. We had a mansion, so it would take him like half an hour to turn all the lamps and lights off in each room, and he would just be like bending down to do this while I was like grabbing him like a little baby monkey. And I don't know, I just love that memory. And my first memory was being in my baby walker and being 1 and like running to him in my baby walker, and how fun that was. And growing in that family was such a fun dynamic, because they were such eloquent artists and they had so much interesting stuff to say, and it was a house filled with artists, life-changing people who were fighting for their rights, our rights, everyone's rights, the right to make art in Poland, the right to be to just have a family and live in a free country and be the master of your own wits was such a cool thing to feel for him. And we would go on these holidays every year. We went on a holiday for 4 months out of his year, because my dad was his own boss. So he would take us on these mega trips for like literally a quarter of the year. We would go to the Maldives, we would go diving in different parts of the world, we went to the Caribbean, we went all over the world. We went to every place you could think of that you would want to scuba dive. We went to Gozo, we went to all these different places. We have so many home videos of us just being these like elegant little girls, like in Saint-Tropez, going to dinner in Saint-Tropez and being dressed identically, even though we have the same birthday, but we're not twins. And like sitting there and talking about Poland politically, what was going on, and whatever punk band was happening in Poland at the time that wasn't nihilist, but was pro-love and everlasting joy, and about a heaven that they were in together, just one-on-one, and what it meant to be a Polish punk rocker. It wasn't like fuck everything. It was really like we love each other. So there's something about that. There's something about us like videoing each other, having those videos that made me a filmmaker. My mom having the Nikon that she really called her first child, that she gave birth to before she gave birth to my sister and me. The idea that you could be candid and just talk about what you felt was interesting. Whatever you thought was interesting to them, and that's what they were interested in. They weren't interested in like your looks or that you were going to be pleasing or something like that. So I think that's where all of my ideas about collaboration came from, is that little family unit where we were going around the world and not just looking at the fish, but taking in the people and helping people and, you know, really being part of a community and having a laugh as well. It was such a laugh. Like, that was very like laugh-filled household, and we were easy to laugh. So this one's for the kids out there, because I know it's an intense time. I guess if you don't know what to do, just watch films that you like. That's what I always do. Just like go back and start watching the films that you like. Putting all the love out there for the mamas and the daddies and the babies.